Hello, hello, hello. If you can hear us, if you can see us, do please let us know because
I'm sorry. There's my background.
yes. We would
wait a minute.
appreciate it. If you got you bust out the new headphones at long last.
Oh, I'm feeling good. Oh,
good.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you're all doing well out there. It is cold over here. Winter has actually shown up this year, and it has shown up with a vengeance, to say the least. It's good to see you all. The leg master. Okay. I guess we're just making things up at this point. Who's the guy on the right? I don't recognize him. I know. He without his gorgeous locks, how can we possibly identify this man?
Oh, I'm loving this. Oh, yeah.
Better? Good.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you can't go without which today is, of course, rat ears. Can't go without my pink rat ears. Oh, I'm feeling so much better. Right, so given that I've missed pretty much everything that was said just before that because I was too busy sorting out my rat ears, let me just also add, I'm 50 now.
Yeah, Andy had a wonderful big old birthday. At least I assume it was wonderful. It better have been wonderful.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, lots of things. I've got myself, now most of you won't understand what it says. Google will be your friend. But I've got myself a Glowforge. And a Glowforge is thousands of pounds worth of laser cutter printer goodness for prototyping games and doing crazy shit with. So I'm super looking forward to playing with that. Have I set it up yet? Hell no. I've been too busy partying. I'm being 50. I'm getting a haircut. I'm getting, of course, my new ears. These are to replace my old ears, which died like 3 times. And I wasn't allowed to use these till after my birthday. I've now got dispensation to use the ears. So here we go. I am good to go.
Excellent stuff.
Let me also add, for those of you who are beginning to rumble up, that right after this stream, we've got a super special treat for you.
Yeah, so today is the first full-on episode of the Lorebeards book club, which is super exciting, and hopefully y'all have been paying attention because time's up, and your homework for the last several weeks was to read through Troll Slayer, the first book of the Go Check and Felix series, and Vera and Lindsay are going to be diving in hard on that, which actually is almost feels like convenient timing. No, it is convenient timing because GW just released a special edition of Troll Slayer just because they copy everything we do. I
mean, it's the only reason they're releasing it. It's that and nothing else.
Those absolute thieving bastards. But yeah.
So I already have had somewhat of a preview in that Lindsay has been discussing much of what she's going to discuss, and because we were talking about bits and she was asking what's this and what's that about various details, and it's super fascinating because it's unlike, at least from what I've heard so far, any book club that I've been aware of ever, because this isn't so much just about, oh, this is the stories, this is what I liked and what I didn't like. It's very much a deep dive into all the lore that's offered and taking a walk through both the stuff that's a bit weird because, hey, this is an old book. It's got some weird shit in there, but also the stuff that's really cool and has somehow managed to seep into Warhammer and become the Warhammer we know and love today. I find that super fascinating. She's also got some interesting notes about, say, for example, Venland. I mean, who knows what Venland is? This guy, because I added it to a map, and it's nice to see that the source, the original source, the Go Check and Felix books, is getting hopefully remembered today. So yeah, it's going to be a super cool stream. Make sure you don't miss it. That's directly after this one. We will almost certainly mention it again because, hey, we don't want you to miss it at all.
Yeah, which, just a reminder that if you're on Twitch, you don't have to go anywhere. And if you're on YouTube, this stream will, when it ends, we'll have a little button that you click that will show up in the chat that'll take you right to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with it because I'm aware of a good chunk of what Lindsay wants to discuss, and it was enough to make me go, I wish I was doing this. There's so much cool shit to discuss. This is awesome. So I'm keen to see where it all lands, and I hope you are too.
Should be very, very fun stuff. But that's
What
all
are we doing today, Sotek?
preamble.
What is it,
for-
Ryan? What is it?
I know.
You big fat liar. What is it, you big leak guy?
Yeah, when the Loremaster of Sotek is held to account. A particular little bastard that's been lurking in the background for quite some time has been good old Queek Headtaker. Good old Queek Headtaker, the great mighty warlord of the City of Pillars. This is something that I have been wanting to cover for a really long time, but I, of course, obsessively wanted to do so in the form of a video, which is the way I used to do things and still intend to do, but it was one of those things that it just kind of kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And me and Andy were talking about it, and we were sitting there, and it was like, why don't we just do a Lorebeards on it?
Yep, let's just freaking do it. Yeah, it's about time, I think. And I'm looking forward to this episode a lot, and I'll explain why when we get into the intro. But before we do that, we should probably dive into you lovely people who've been sending us a few quick super chats before we get going. Let's dive into those and see what awesomeness you are bringing to us this week.
Yeah, so Biofund, my niece was born Tuesday. Congratulations. When should I start training her to be as good as a warrior as Queek? You're already way behind schedule. You are way behind schedule already.
Yeah. Queek was pretty much groomed from birth to be the bestest and the biggest and the nastiest of Clan Morris. So by the time that he had left his litter, he'd already eaten them all. So my first question, I suppose, is, does your niece have any brothers and sisters? And if so, oh boy.
Yeah. So first of all, she's already several days late, missed a huge window of opportunity. Second of all, wasn't born with any twins to devour. That's another X mark. It's 2 strikes. But unrelated, but Big E is Biggie Smalls from now on. Sure, why not?
Sounds good to me.
Brock 6000.
Brock.
Happy birthday,
you.
Andy. Here's 50 for 50. Hey, that's a good way to do it. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, sure. If everyone did that who's watching the stream live, we'd be rich.
Yeah.
I'd be able to buy the next extension. We're actually right now planning another extension outside our house because we've decided that there's not enough space to play Lawhammer. Anyone who's been at my house will fully understand there's not enough space to play Lawhammer. So we're going to build a space on the outside that's not that much bigger, but it's not in the house, which I think is a good thing because we'd like to have our living room back. So we're considering doing that, and we just got the first estimate discussion through, and I'm not so sure we do want to do it.
Yeah.
Oh no, so expensive.
Yeah, I'll absolutely bet. Yeah, we had the joyous news of one of our heaters acting up, and the AC guys came over. They were like, "Oh, both your AC unit and your heater unit are really old. Like, we could fix it, but like they're really old." And we were like, well, "How much would it be to get new ones? Because I guess we'll just do that." And they're like, $26,000, say, and we were like,
what the?
Yeah.
Fuck?
So we're doing that. That's gonna be super fun.
Yeah, holy crap sticks. But that's not cheap. That makes the air conditioning I slapped in here. I mean, hey, we're in the UK, we don't really need it. And we ended up spending about $5 and a bit grand on that. But yeah, that's not as much as you're spending.
It'll be so wonderful once it's done, though. It'll be so nice. But anyway, thanks for all your contributions, hard work, and laughs. Your magnificent Reichland map pulled me back to this chaotic/fun hobby, and I've been so glad for all the joy and creativity Lorebeards has inspired.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to say in return, thank you for your enduring, support. As we have fumbled our way from subject to subject, diving in with probably a great deal more enthusiasm than organization.
Yeah, hey.
It's who we are.
Yeah, the enthusiasm is the important part. I suspect. Jonathan King, happy belated birthday, Andy. May you always win against Nurgle and your beard be ever longer.
Yeah, well, I hope, Jonathan, that indeed we do hold off Nurgle for at least a few more years. That would be nice.
Yep. Brock and Mr. Pig.
The Goonies never say die, just to make sure we're clear.
Never say die.
Quite.
Thank you to Brock and Mr. Pig for becoming members. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
There will be stuff coming on that end soon. There's a lot of nails we're hitting with hammers at the moment. We're getting there. Getting gleeful. Out of curiosity, Andy, did you know that Nathan? Who's Nathan? Do you mean Ryan? I'm not Nathan. My name is not Nathan. It never has been Nathan. In fact, it's right here on the screen.
It's there. So I'm always certainly pointing the wrong direction because of the way that it does things. But yeah, it's there on the screen.
So I can actually answer this for you. Did he know anything about the end time stuff? No. Now we talked about like hopefully the potential of it being a thing. That would be nice. But you know.
So I'll be as blunt about this as I can. I'm a professional. I've been doing this job, and by this job I mean Warhammer and writing and stuff for a very long time. And there's one thing that you end up doing a lot of in this job, and that's signing NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. You don't talk about the stuff you've been NDA'd up for. And that's not something that makes you go, oh, no, I really wish I'd known. I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, oh, exciting. More stuff's coming. Great. No, we don't break NDAs because we're too cool for that.
Yeah. Darius Rose, weird question. Andy, how big is Manfred von Karstein? Oh, I think he means the cat. My guy is 8 kilograms. I'm thinking maybe naming him...
Kilos.
I'm naming him Kenton Rock after the guy I want lore for.
Cat and Rock, yeah. So Manfred von Karstein is still growing. He's 7 point something kilos at the moment. So you're currently a little bit ahead. Manfred has just reached the point where he's made my other 2 cats, which are also the 2 second largest breeds. My Manfred von Karstein is Maine Coon, the largest little cat breed that you can get for your house, you know, other than a lion or something. And he's just reached the point where he's made the other 2 look kind of small. And I look at them and go, you're tiny. Oh, no, he's just big, but you're tiny. So yeah, he's 7 point something kilos at the moment. Last time he was weighed, he was just over 7 kilos, but we've not weighed him for a wee while.
So you're saying that Lindsay hasn't yet?
Lindsay says she just weighed him right this second. Okay, he's currently 7.3 kilos, just weighed him. Vladimir is 7.3, that's Vladimir von Karstein. And Isabella von Karstein is mighty 5.8.
I suspect this isn't the case, but I do love the idea that Lindsay had Lorebeards on the background with, and went and grabbed him to put on a scale. Like,
I think that happened regardless of whether it's the truth or not.
Darius Rose, how tall is Queek? And how tall is Ska? So it's Ska, not Scar, but Ska Bloodtail. So Queek. So for a big thing to know about Warhammer is GW really doesn't like to give a lot of specific data when it comes to like exact heights or exact weights or any of that stuff. They're not cool like a lot of your favorite mangas over in Japan might be, where they tend to give like exact information about character sizes and stuff. But Queek is a lot bigger than you probably think he is. Because when a lot of people think Skaven, they think they're only like 4 or 5 feet tall. But bigger Skaven, especially Storm Vermin breeds, actually get well into 6 feet plus, especially when they stand all the way up. Queek is a big boy. Ska is bigger than him, but Queek's probably very solidly in the good like 6'1" to 6'3" ballpark. Ska's probably much more around like 6'6", if not higher.
If not taller, yeah. So we're going to discuss this as we are working our way through much of Queek's extensive deeds. Yeah, it is what she did.
No, it is what Lindsay did.
His extensive deeds. But one thing we can say without any real doubt is that Queek is one of the biggest Skaven. Not the biggest, but one of the biggest, because he's the big black-furred monstrosity from one of the biggest clans, Clan Moors. And he was big at birth, bigger than the biggest litter they'd had in a long time. And that means that as Skaven go, he's presumably right up there. Now, what does that mean? Typically, a Skaven, when we see them running along in various pictures, are bent right over. And I do mean right over. You see their back is often higher than their head. And in that position, they're about 4 and a bit feet tall. When they stand up, they're often more than 5 feet tall. But they are one of the shorter species. The storm vermin, their backs sit at around about the 5 to the 6 foot tall area. Now, if he completely unfolded himself and did that straight back thing, he's probably huge in a way that would make most humans go, oh, shit, and back off from him in a way that would make elves probably look at him eye to eye. Elves being one of the taller species in the Warhammer universe, generally somewhere in the region of about 6.5 up to 7 foot for the taller examples, often well over 7 foot for someone like Tyrion. And Queek is an example of that for his species, but also a species that has a great deal of warpstone fucking around in them. Hell, he himself wears warpstone armor. So, yeah, he's a big, big guy. Having said that, if we go back to the original art for him, which was an actual banging piece by Mark Gibbons all the way back in 1996, you can actually get a pretty strong idea of how tall he is because of the skulls on his great trophy rack. And you can scale a skull to it and look at it and go, wait a minute, there's his back, there is. And even if you just use that one, he's probably sitting in the region of 6.5 foot tall. Okay, and he's still slightly bent over there. So he's easy a big guy.
Yep. Sir of the Great Heart Rat, after all these years, you're finally going to have to spend a few hours talking about the best, greatest warlord of all time. Yes. Yep. And excited to do so, genuinely. Sean Schultz, is Krimlo the first legendary lord for Total War Warhammer 40K? All right, this will be the one time I break my NDA. Yes. Yep, a giant space frog is indeed the first playable. It's not a space marine. It's not any of the other playable factions. It's a big frog.
Space frog.
Because as we know, Krimlo, he came from space.
Frogs in space. Oh, thanks, Nils.
Nils Andre, thank you so much for becoming a member. And Exile One, thank you for gifting 10 members. That's another big 50 essentially. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Unleashing a sacred spawning of new members upon us. Thank you so much. Oh, that actually just gave me an idea of what I could do immediately after the stream. I'll you know what? I'm gonna set it up after the stream. That way, if you're a member on here, you'll get a cool little colored profile in Discord. I can do that right after the stream. Amon Knight, first ever Lorebeards stream. What a one to show up for. You have impeccable taste.
You do. What a guy.
All your content, and I want to thank you both for all the deep lore discourse and carrying the flame of the best Warhammer setting. Much love from the NL.
Oh no.
NL.
Oh no, you're good. Netherlands?
Probably. It has to be, right? I can't think of another NL.
Hey, I'm a knight. If you're still in the chat, give it a quick drop with the NL. It's Netherlands, apparently.
Okay, cool.
That was Wesley's. So yeah. Oh wow. We're going to get to this in a moment, but thanks everyone. You all rock.
Thank you all. We really appreciate. This one's kind of. There's a lot of like important thing. Obviously, the most important thing is Andy's birthday. That is genuinely the most important thing by such a far metric. It's not even funny. Thank you all very much. Bane 340. Considering his age and the race he belongs to, his achievements are quite substantial. We'll discuss that. The greatest victim of the end times, our baby rat taken before his prime. No, but yes, but no. But yes, but no.
Before his prime.
Yeah. Wow. Getting gleeful, I watched a video about naked mole rats recently, and I thought about that fan-made female member of the Council of 13. Since naked mole rats are actually eusocial and have a queen, maybe her clan is like that. Sure.
You could, but I don't think I'd want to effectively completely rewrite the Skaven just to fit that in. I'd rather take a look at other species that perhaps have a significant number of male drone-like, members and single queens birthing many of them with a low female to male ratio. I mean, is there already a species like that out there? And then you might go, well, that would be the dwarves. But where did the Skaven come from in the first place? Or maybe it is a good fit. Ooh.
Pro Donkey, congrats Ryan on being the voice of the fantasy community for CA, and apparently the winningest historical Total War player.
Were you?
Yeah. So we did like a 3 or 4 month long historical tournament where teams played through all the different historical games, and my team won.
Well done.
Yeah, so me and Cleo Ike were like, woohoo! So that was good stuff.
Good job. I'm impressed. Keeping it going for our side. Yes.
Yeah. Just keep winning around these parts. We just keep up. We just keep up the wins. Darius, thank you for doing a Lorebeards on me. You're welcome.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And also different ways to interpret that.
Yep.
What a week this is going to be.
Yeah. Man, what would doing a Lorebeard be on? Never mind. I'm going to stop before I get in trouble. I drew you a birthday gift on Discord, Andy. Oh, I hope did you add it?
Okay. It's over on Discord somewhere. I'm having a look. I'm not seeing it anywhere. Show me where the link is.
It's in the fan art. It's in the fan art. Oh, that's cute.
I had a look. I just missed the point.
So cute.
I'm scrolling. Hey, look at me with my hat. If you're not already on our Discord server, you're missing out on cool pieces of fan art that have been built by our community, including some new 40k bits as well.
Did you see the one with the cake?
Lorebeards. I did see the one with the cake. How cool is that?
It's got everybody on it.
It does. It's brilliant.
It's even got the corner goblin.
It's great.
That's hilarious. Okay, that's wonderful.
Yep, just brilliant.
Mike, thank you. That's so lovely. That's wonderful. Antonio, poor Queek, Scarbrand on the left and the gash on the right.
Here I am stuck in the middle with you.
We'll get to many of the crazy escapades there. When will the old world / 40k lore seekers start a tabletop simulator league? Maybe in the new year. But sometime soon. Someone will have to handle it within the community, because I'll tell you, neither of us is going to be in charge of it, because I barely can keep up with being a player in the Age of Sigmar Path to Glory League. So, Gideon, no, you're all good, man. You're all good. Darius, who's scariest? Queek after Scar got injured, Bloodtail, a Blood Angel after Sanguinius died, or me after Cena tapped out at SNME finding out Sean's married? Clearly the third one. Clearly the third one.
I mean, we know this already. And for those of you who don't know Darius, because you have not watched enough of our shows, you would understand why we have chosen Darius over the rest of that horrified group.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They would flee into their holes, as they should. Cameo, happy to catch a stream again. Had a temp job that took up a lot of time. Welcome back and hope you're doing well. What advice would you give someone who wants to combine their career with their passions? That's difficult. What I would say is pursue your passions within reason, while making sure you're taking care of yourself, and look for opportunities to explore where those passions, like how those passions were brought to you, whether through the creation process or the delivery process, or learn about what led to you being able to consume it, and see if there is something within those processes that you can start to learn or explore, or people you can start to meet, or conventions you can go to, and take steps carefully while making sure that you have a foundation that supports you in case it's not financially viable.
And on my side, I'm going to offer just one word. But that one word, I think, speaks to almost anything in this general area, and that is practice. You can do practice outside of work that hopefully provides. You can do practice outside of those darker moments or those lighter moments. You can do it any time. But the more practice you put into whatever your passion might be, the more likely you're going to be able to turn that into something else that someone goes, hey, that's cool. Can I be involved somehow? One of the only reasons I got to where I am today is because I was writing and drawing and doing and making stuff from a very early age. And I did it again and again and again and again and again. And I got good enough that people were willing to pay me to do it. But that was only because of practice. You got to put in the work. So my top piece of advice is practice.
Nope. All right, we're almost caught up here, and then we're going to get into everything. Gideon, okay, so which are taller if they stood up all the way? Typical orcs, typical, I assume you meant to say storm vermin, not storm fiends, because storm fiends are big.
Yeah.
Or Saurus warriors.
Ooh. Probably the Saurus.
Yeah,
I mean, probably.
Yeah, probably the Saurus warriors will be the absolute biggest.
I mean, so being as fair about this as we can be, we also have to discuss extremes. And orcs win it by a country mile on extremes, because when orcs get thumped, they get bigger. And they totally hulk out and get bigger and bigger. And the older they get, the bigger they get, assuming that they're continuing to fight and continuing to get stuck in, which is what orcs tend to do. Meaning that the biggest examples of orcs are bigger than all of the others. If we're talking on averages, probably the Saurus, but that's a probably. The storm vermin are most certainly at the bottom of that pile. That doesn't mean that stat on stat they're at the bottom, because they pack one heck of a punch, but still not quite as big a punch as a Saurus warrior.
Yeah. Also recommend artist Gambarjan for his depiction of Eldar. Seems quite similar to how you two prefer elves. Oh, I will check that out.
There is a reason for that. It's not so much that we prefer the elves that way. It's that they were written that way in multiple sources, and it's kind of how they've landed in.
Necroplayer, I ship Queek and Ska, not romantically because Skaven, but ship them together nonetheless. My gay heart needs more gay couples. I actually know an artist whose whole thing is he does yaoi Skaven. That's like pretty much all he does.
To their own. I'm not gonna go down. I'm gonna go down in someone's cake. That's not what I meant to say.
You're a married man. I would hope not.
Oh well, let's just back away from that one quickly. Apparently, my 50s are going to be my midlife crisis years.
I like how you tried to step around that and instead just tripped and fell straight in.
Yeah, I just jumped in anyway and didn't care.
And then Jonathan King, thank you for becoming a member. And
thank you. Oh, cripes!
10 memberships, and Amon, thank you for the 5 memberships.
You all are just so generous. Thank you for not just supporting us, but supporting each other as well with the gift memberships. It's just lovely.
Thank you all so much. And all right, it's go time. And then I'm going to be taking us on a ride.
All right, are we all ready? Queek, Headtaker. There's a story behind this one. And it's not a story that has its depth, its historical roots in a Games Workshop army list. There's a story of Lorebeards. Some time ago, we made a promise. It was a promise based upon what Ryan was discussing earlier, which was that he wanted to do a Queek video. He told everyone he was going to do a Queek video. Everyone knew of his Queek video. He made the mistake of telling everyone he was going to make a Queek video. And as he looked into Queek, he realized that Queek has done a lot. And I do mean a lot. We're going to be discussing a good bit of that through the course of this stream. Indeed, he'd done so much that the doing of the video took a lot more work than he initially realized. Back near the beginning of Lorebeards, all the way back 2 years ago or so, Ryan and I were discussing this, and he said, "Hey, I've got an idea because I've written a good script. I'm pretty sure I know what I want to do for Queek. How about we tie that in to Lawhammer?" Now, if you don't know, and I can't believe you don't know, but I'm going to say it anyway. But if you don't know, Lawhammer is where we do Warhammer Fantasy roleplay games every week, and our campaign's just hit our 77th episode, and there is so much heresy going on just now that parts of the internet exploded. I had got a really nice message about it, which was super cute. But that's by the by, because holy moly has it got particularly strange. And to support it, he said, "Hey, how about when you reach 5K subscriptions over in Lawhammer, I'll sort out that Queek Headtaker video." And I was like, that sounds great. So we ran with that, and we told everyone that this was going to happen. We hit 5K. We were super excited. And I said, "Ryan, have you got the video ready?" He's like, "I've got the script finished. I've got a new script finished because there's more I want to add to it. There's more stuff I want to do. I'm just doing it." Weeks turned to months. months turned to years. Now, did I put pressure on? No, because I don't believe in putting pressure on. The person who's going to put the most pressure on Ryan is always going to be Ryan.
That absolute
But nevertheless,
bastard. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, he's an absolute, bastard. And that pressure was piling up on him, and I didn't want to make it worse. But it was still sitting there in the background. Every once in a while, he'd bring it up. Oh, got a new editor now, because that's often the case. Editors come and go for videos. And I think I've got it all lined up. And this happened more than once. We've reached the point where we've almost hit the next milestone for Lawhammer, which is 10K subscriptions. And when we do that one, we're doing our Gelt video. We're not doing a video about Gelt. We're just doing it live on Lorebeards, because that's how we're going to handle it. And that's indeed how we're going to fix Queek, at least on the short term, until maybe 2 years later, he finally resolves the Queek video. And you might go, hey, Andy, that's not much of an intro to Queek. That's because my intro today is going to be super short. Indeed. This is Ryan's penance. Today, I get to sit back like I'm on a sun lounger. I go, I don't know about this one. What? Queek, who's he? I've never heard about him before. No, what's Queek? As he has to fill in all those lore gaps by himself. And by that, I mean, I am going to try to bite my tongue and not interrupt too often. But you know what I'm like. My intro thus is going to be short. Back in 1996, Skaven got their army list for the 4th edition of the battle game. Now, for those of you who know your Warhammer lore, you'll recognize this book. It's got that famous slightly brown cover, a lovely, I think it's Dave Gallagher image on the front with this grey seer, and it was written by Andy Chambers. And Andy Chambers at the back of the special characters added Queek Headtaker. The Queek Headtaker we get in 4th edition had a banging, as I mentioned before, piece of art that was put together by Mark Gibbons. And also, I'll just mark out another book if I can. Let's just move that up there. Let's see if I can get it. You can see all sorts of crazy. Can you just see that picture there? That is the original Grey Seer, also from that army list that Mark has very nicely sent over to us. It's indescribably gorgeous. But that aside, great piece of art. Queek Headtaker got a page to himself because he was important. And it explained why he was important in there. Now, what details am I going to tell you from that? None! Not my job today! Pardon me. Bring myself back in a line here. And Queek kind of languished for a wee while, not getting used very much by most books. And then every book mentioned him. Pretty much every book. Whenever something Skaven came out, Queek was in the background, because not only was Queek a character who was important for the Skaven, he was also almost on the crossroads of the world, sitting in that place where he can meet and war against multiple other special characters, meaning that whenever they came up, so did Queek. And very quickly, Queek got a bit of a story. And I'm not entirely convinced that the writers quite realized what they were doing, given the very limited time that they had for Queek. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is he's not old. Like, at all. He's a baby. Without going deep into the end times here, the vast majority of the important deeds of his life, well, if it had been me, I'd have done them in the first 10th of my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm that old. He's done almost everything by the age of 3 to 4, around about that area. A bunch of other deeds peppered about afterwards. But he's a Skaven, and Skaven burn out fast, normally. They rarely last for more than a few years at any rate. But no one seems to have quite remembered that for Queek, because they're often thinking about their other special characters, who are often consuming warpstone, sticking it up their nose, and doing all sorts of other crazy stuff to keep themselves living for longer. Regardless, Queek is an extraordinarily, let's say, capable baby. He has done a lot. And as Ryan is going to discuss today, He's done so much that actually organizing a timeline for him is a bit difficult. It's one of the reasons why his video never really happened, because there's so much to squeeze in. And when you realize how much he does in his early years and how fast he's moving from place to place, you suddenly go, well, this doesn't necessarily make sense. But as you know, we here in Lorebeards love to try and make sense of the nonsensical. We love trying to make something that doesn't work in practice actually work. And for Queek, you can kind of do it. I think you can do it. Don't you think you can do that, Ryan?
I think we could do it. I think we could force it to work.
Well, what's this we business? We?
Yeah, we?
Don't you mean you think you can do it?
No, because clearly I haven't, so I can't. So it has to be a we.
So that's fair. So disregarding the accidental advert for Nintendo's slightly strange console, the Wii, we will just leave it off with this. Queek has done a fucking shed load. And that shed load has to be squeezed into a very short life. And that short life is the story of one of not just the most powerful combat wombats that the Skaven have to offer, but also one of their more interesting characters. He is, in terms of his own self-confidence, well, there are few that think more highly of Queek Headtaker than Queek Headtaker. He is that special, and he is also just a little bitty, just a little bitty batshit mental. As we're going to dive into, because that lovely, huge crest of a back banner covered in all of his greatest trophies, the many very important people he has killed, and much like many characters who have killed lots of important people, none of them were important until they had their name written into the background at some point to go up there. Much like that, you're going to, I think you're going to like this one. At least I am, because... Go!
Begin! So
go!
Yeah, we're gonna dive into this a bit, but real quick, before we do, you may have noticed good old Nightbot occasionally spitting out some random comments in the chat, which thank you, Hawk, for getting that set up for us. And you may also notice there's a little thing up here, which is that this episode is such a big deal because it's fucking Queek that this episode is actually sponsored by the lovely folks over at World Anvil, which we'll talk about in just a sec, because Andy's actually been working with them for a hot moment.
I love World Anvil. This is one of the most easy sponsorship deals we could ever make, because this isn't one of those ones where someone comes up to you and says, hey, hi, I've got bags of cash, and we would like to give you bags of cash to say that these razors are really good, and you as Lorebeards must be really interested in razors. And we're like, right, yeah, no, this is completely different. This is Janet and Demi, who run Make World Anvil, are friends of mine. I love them deeply, and I love their website. I use their website. It's a gigantic tool, a massive database where you can just throw lore at all day, different characters, different worlds. If you're writing books, if you're a GM who's got an entire story to tell, no matter what you're building on the world building side, World Anvil does it for you. And I adore it. So when they said, would you like to? Yes. I mean, what are you asking? Oh, sponsorship. Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, we're in. Woohoo! So, yeah, we'll probably discuss it a little bit more later, but this is, for us, an absolutely natural fit. Well, it's for me, because it's my friends, and they're the best.
Yep. And for anyone that wants to go ahead and start looking into it, we'll talk a little bit more about it later on in the stream, but if you want to go ahead and look into it, there is a link right at the top of the description, and Nightbot is also spamming it from time to time. And you can actually go on there and use code Lorebeards to save a considerable amount of money on, I think, a year membership, something like that. So those are in there. World Anvil, they're wonderful guys. They're genuinely wonderful guys.
I'm going to bring this one up because it is worth noting. If you like your world building, or if you just like building your own stuff at home, this is accurate. their seminars, because they do not just streams with pretty much everybody across the industry about world building, but they also run seminars about world building. They run an entire convention about world building, which I have been a guest on multiple times. Do recommend you check it out. But their seminars are indeed incredible.
Yep. So, Queek.
Okay, go for it. This is where I now just get to sit back and go, who is this guy? I don't know.
Queek Headtaker, to do a little bit of stage setting, there is a bit of a thing within Warhammer Fantasy where, generally speaking, most of your special characters are blink and you miss it types of individuals, where they would get maybe a page to themselves with an army book, and then in a timeline section, they would probably get mentioned another 1 or 2 times just to kind of make it feel like they're part of the world. And that was really it. Maybe they'll show up in like a little blurb, like a short story that's included within the army book. But all of that stuff would be simply within that book, and you'd have to wait for the next edition to add some more information to the character. And this is how Queek originally was, where he was simply a character that would just kind of show up throughout the army books, and he was fun, and he had a very, very iconic, cool design, and it would be like, oh, he's crazy, and he's mad, and he's super aggressive, and that was it. He had a cool model, and that was fine. Then
I'm just to say, I love that model so much. I painted it 5 times.
It is a fantastic mini,
and it was a really good original model for Queek back in the metal days. I used him as a general multiple times, but obviously I've never heard of him and I've no idea who he is. Please tell me more, Ryan.
Yeah, but then something happened for Queek, which was that Warhammer Fantasy, especially on its later days, started getting a significant amount of Black Library focus that started delving into a lot of the characters, most of which was through the lens of the Time of Legends series, but they were getting quite a few books. And Queek got something that was actually relatively rare, but very, very nice, which is he got a full dedicated novel, and not by just anyone, but by David Geimer, who is a fantastic author. And I think this was his first or one of his first novels for the Black Library. And to say that he killed it is such an understatement. It is a absolutely fantastic novel, packed full of wonderful details and awesome characters. And he does a very, very clever thing, which is that while you get a lot of Queek's point of view, you also get a lot of the point of view of the characters around him. And he treats Queek's backstory as something that is like, while it's definitely happened, many of the characters that are sharing information about Queek's backstory are lying actively. They're one of the main POV characters is the main antagonist of the book, which is Sleek Sharpwit, who is this really, really, really old Skaven that used to be a warlord of Carrick 8 Peaks, but nobody remembers him because he left a while ago to go serve in Skavenblight because Skaven have really short memories, even though he's only been gone for like 20 years. Everyone's like, yeah, I have no idea who you are. And he is where you get a lot of your information about Queek's background, but openly admits that he doesn't know if a lot of the stuff he's saying is true. He's just telling people what they want to hear so that they will be more motivated to not like Queek. Which is great because that does super fun for world building of it's kind of the only thing we have to work with. So we kind of look at it as, oh, well, I guess this technically happened. But whether or not it's the exact truth of what went down is completely up in the air, which is great. That's fun world building for Warhammer because that gives you world to play around with. Mm-hmm. But it didn't stop there because it turns out Geimer really, really liked Queek. So he kept adding more. So he wrote 2 additional short stories about Queek, where you had the Voices short story, which is actually very, very rare and hard to find, which is literally just Queek basically monologuing to himself for the entirety of the short story. Yeah, it's very, very fun. And it's technically the opening to the Headtaker novel, but for some reason when Games Workshop like released it as an omnibus, they didn't include the Voices short story, which was really weird because it sets up the book and then they left it out. But I don't know why they did that. And then the other one is the let's see, the Karak Durak Grudge, which we'll talk a little bit more later about, which is a story that takes place notably later in Queek's life. And you'd think, okay, all right, so we got 2 short stories, we've got a full novel, and we've got about 3 editions worth of army book. That's all right. That's a pretty good amount. That's several hundred pages, but okay, we can work with this. Then the End Times showed up. And the End Times had several books that featured on what was going on in the Warhammer world. And Queek features rather prominently in 2 of the books, which is that in the Big Nagash book, he plays a notable part in the opening set that's exploring what's going on all around the world, because he's the big bad antagonist of Karak 8 Peaks, along with Skarsnik and Belagar. And so he gets a little bit of focus there. And then they dropped the big bomb, which was Book 4, Thankful, which is a fucking lie, because you'd think since it's called End Times Thankful, it would be about Thankful. No, it's about Queek.
Pretty much.
Queek is literally the main character of part 4. He gets the most information by far, and when they released the giant Black Library novel, it's almost entirely about Queek and Belagar. And their relationship and everything that goes down with that big old war. With Queek dominating like 80% of the book. And then, of course, the big End Times book. So now you're looking at almost, I think, 1,000, if not a little bit over, pages about Queek, who is not that old. He is a baby.
Just to say one other thing as well, I'm going to say something that's going to make me really hurt to say it. But as End Times material goes, pretty good.
Yeah, Queek's storyline in the End Times is genuinely awesome.
Oh, that really hurt. Oh, yeah, that hurt.
A lot of characters had terrible End Times storylines, but Queek's was great. It was genuinely awesome. So, without further ado, let's get into what are the shenanigans of Queek Headtaker.
The shenanigans.
Because there's really no other way to describe them, because they truly are shenanigans.
Before we jump in, let's grab a couple of the super chats so we don't fall behind. Just so I think there was a couple that came in.
Great.
I'm not sure there's many, but just to make sure we keep on top.
Yeah, Gary Geronison. Now that the MHA has ended, the My Hero Academia has ended, the birth of All for One was truly Skaven-like. Are there any Skaven who kept one of their litter mates as a pet / possession? So in the written material, no, but
not that I can think of.
But that
I quite like the idea.
Yeah, that would not be an unusual thing for Skaven to do at all.
Yeah, I'm taking a note here. Huge success. No, I quite like that as an idea. I don't want to forget it. So that was a good one, Gary.
Yeah. I mean, Queek ate all of his siblings, so you could argue in that sense he kept them as possessions. Yes, calories. Lidor, I saw something about a birthday, so happy birthday to Andy. Yes, Andy hit the big 5-0. We're all very proud of him, and he's wonderful. Ryan, congratulations on archiving your personal Half-Life 3 with this stream. Well, I wouldn't say I've archived it. I've sort of like released like a 0.5 version is what this stream is. It's enough that I can sleep better at night. I'll put it that way. Sorry, the Great Horned Rat. One thing I often enjoy is the way Queek and Nodwell are depicted together and how opposite they usually are. Yes, we'll be talking a lot about this stream.
Yeah, it's an important relationship.
Yeah, it's actually very much thanks to the Queek series that the Council of 13, some of the members got as fleshed out as they did, because Nodwell is a big focus character. Who gets quite a bit of development as far as like what is he actually like, and the answer is fucking terrifying. Because he's not really like a Skaven at all, which is what makes him so spooky. Which we'll get into that. Stephen Lucas, so you're saying modern day Warhammer Fantasy is just the era Queek has been alive? No, but yes, but no. So most people think of modern day Warhammer as like the era of Karl Franz. So like 2502 onwards. Queek wasn't even born. Well, yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. But yeah, Queek was born.
Just to say, we will one day do a Karl Franz stream. His age is variable.
Yeah.
His reign is variable.
Hell yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, just tune into the Troll Slayer stream to learn the can of worms that is a little bit of the Karl Franz timeline. Anyway, so Queek is in the year 2521. Queek is 4 years old. Like,
yeah, it all falls apart when you look at how just young he is and how much gets done in the time.
Yeah, when the world is destroyed, so like when the world genuinely completely blows up, at the his final battle with Thorgrim Grudgebearer, Queek is 10.
Yep.
Like he is not that old at all in the slightest.
He's a baby.
Amon Knight, Queek X Belagar, enemies to lovers, Yowies win. It's probably already out there, but I haven't seen it yet, which is a little surprising, but getting gleeful. Okay, so if the book is mostly about Queek and Belagar, how the end times miss out Skarsnik. So in the novel, Skarsnik, I think it's 2 chapters, but they're not entirely focused on him. They're more about when shenanigans bump into him. Skarsnik is a major character in the Carrick 8 Peaks arc, but of the 3, he's by far the least important, and he kind of gets shafted by the story. He does a lot of cool moments, but the story doesn't give him the ending it's supposed to, and it was really weird, where what Skarsnik wanted to do was to literally put a bomb inside Carrick 8 Peaks that blows it up, so that, because if he couldn't have it, nobody could. And that ended up kind of being one of those Chekhov's guns that never fired, which was really weird because then Carrick 8 Peaks never comes back in the story.
I mean, is it that weird when we learn what we learn later about how the end times was constructed? It just feels like there was a bunch of stories that were being set up that just never got resolved because they didn't put the resources in to properly blow up the world, and they curtailed it down to just that 5-book cycle and some attendant novels rather than the far larger affair that apparently was originally going to be the case.
Yeah, so of the metric ton that was supposed to be in the end times, a lot of his story were in the parts that got cut, probably due to page count. And like just the sheer amount of time they had to work with. So from there, we can now thank you for all the super chat support and everything. We really appreciate it, guys. Quick's actual story. So beginning in 2517-ish of the Imperial calendar, which is quite late. So like if you're playing a Warhammer Fantasy roleplay campaign of The Enemy Within, which takes place in 2512, Queek's not even born until 4 years after your campaign has started. You've probably already dealt with the major storyline of the entire Enemy Within campaign, and Queek still isn't born yet.
Yep.
But one day, down in Skavenblight, because a lot of people think he was born in Carrick 8 Peaks, and he's not. He's actually born in Skavenblight. Queek was born from one of the highest quality breeding pits in the world. That being the breeding pits that are located within Skavenblight and are controlled by the various most powerful major clans. And Clan Morris, of course, has their own breeders. And whose Queek father is, nobody knows. Because for Skaven, they don't really worry about that stuff. Lineage is, for them, not considered very important. Because breeding rights is something that is handed out very much as as like a reward to get their warriors to fight harder. But we also know that the upper echelons do also use the breeders as well. So, like, is his father some random warlord? Possibly. Is it possibly Nawell? Could be. Is it some random storm vermin that did really well one day? Could be that too. But whoever it was, he had good genetics. Because Queek and his entire litter were one of the largest, like in sheer size, they were one of the largest litters of pups that had ever been born in that particular breeding pit, to the point that it was very well noted. They were huge pups. big babies, and they all were born with very very dark black sleek coats, which to Skaven is immediately a sign of good breeding. Like
that's your storm vermin, and the bestest storm vermin you can get too. Oh yeah.
So they had this wonderful big size litter, and it was recorded by the various little scribes as information was being passed along. And then as they were recording this information, within minutes of this full litter being born, a horrible set of screaming and screeching starts going up from that particular pit. And by the time all of the scribes and everyone got over there, Queek had already killed and devoured all of his siblings. Just right out the gate. And this was deeply alarming to the scribes because it was seen as very unusual. It wasn't unusual for several, like the weaker pups, to be killed and eaten by the larger ones, but for one to kill and eat all of the other ones was considered very unusual. And so they sent word up the chain, and Nodwell found out about it. And Nodwell stopped what he was doing, stopped all of his big council meetings and running the day-to-days and dealing with assassination attempts and all the other messiness of the council.
Let me just pop in, just to make sure we're super clear. There are few Skaven in all of Skavendom that you could say as being important. Nodwell is one of them. He's sitting right up in the Council of 13, leading one of the most powerful clans that exist. Clan Moors, the biggest of warlord clans, the most kick-assiest of storm vermin that are, in terms of their homelands, in the perfect linchpin position where they can have both sides of Skavendom fighting over their attention. He is powerful, just to make sure you understand who he is, as we're about to see the impact he has upon this little baby pup.
Yeah, keep in mind, Nodwell is literally immortal at this point because of the stuff that's going into him. He's been in charge of Clan Moors for 200 years.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, so Nodwell comes down to see this pup that is aggressively violent, like horribly violent, to the point that adult Skaven are scared of getting near him. Like the various scribes and handlers and people that deal with the babies and the rat mothers and everything. Queek literally has to be isolated so he doesn't kill and eat anybody else. And Nodwell goes, excellent, I'm going to raise him as my son. And he adopts Queek, or takes in his biological son, whether it's up to you whether you think of that. You can argue it easily either way.
I think in some respects that it almost makes it weaker if you think that he's his direct son, because it then gives almost the whole tale a mythic angle, which probably isn't true. Because it would be Nodwell basically saying he's amazing. He's always been amazing. Where the truth of it probably was, he just yoinked the biggest pup out of that litter. And then the story spread from there. And Queek wouldn't know because he was a baby at the time. So he probably just believed what he was told. But if he's not his biological son, suddenly this tale takes on both tones. It's both kind of mythic in terms of where it comes from, but it's also kind of true because it drew Nodwell's attention and he came. And that's kind of awesome. So if I was writing it, and I had to confirm it, my preference would be, literally nothing to do with them at all. Nodwell was doing what Skaven do, taking advantage of a situation that was presented before him, rather than turning it into some weird genetic awesomeness because Nodwell is great or whatever. Yeah, screw that. He is his own guy. Nodwell becomes foster dad rather than, actual dad, I think.
Yeah, which the overall lore supports this because he's always referred to as Queek's adoptive father. Yep. But he takes Queek in and raises Queek, which Skaven grow up very, very fast. They grow up quick. Like we're talking weeks, if not days. They reach like a level of maturity where they can walk on two legs, move around, fight, and all this other stuff. And Nodwell quite literally raises Queek as his son. Like not as a like a soldier that lives in the barracks. No, he lives with Nodwell. Nodwell educates him. Nodwell feeds him the finest human and dwarf meat so that he grows as big and strong as he possibly can. And Nodswell also personally trains him. And Queek gets really fucking scary really fucking fast. He is swollen with muscle. He is much bigger than most Skaven. Now, Scott Bloodtail, of course, ends up being even bigger, but Queek is pretty fucking large for one of his species. He's at the absolute, like, top 1%. And Queek, however, has a bit of a quirk, so to speak, which is something that expresses extremely early in Queek's life to the point that Queek can't remember it not being the case. Which I will actually delve into this in just a moment because this is something really important, of that Queek is completely mad. And the way this madness expresses itself is that Queek hears voices, but they don't come from nowhere. Instead, they come from the dead, where Queek believes that he hears the voices of dead people around him telling him things, whether it's a decapitate. Now, they have to have like a head. It doesn't have to be in great condition, but there has to be a head in order for Queek to hear a voice. Like there in his mind, there's a logic to it. Now, you may go, oh, okay, so Queek is just kind of absolute batshit crazy. And I go, haha, yeah, but no.
Yeah, but
because
no.
Here's the problem, is that those voices tell Queek accurate information that he otherwise literally cannot know under any circumstances. This information includes things like that individual's backstory, that individual's language, events or information that individual has observed. And whenever Queek is talking to someone that has died, Queek always talks to them very, very kindly for the most part. Like when someone is actually dead, Queek genuinely loves them. And not a perverse sense of like a sexual sense, but a perverse sense in that he fawns over them. He fawns over the dead. Like stroking it and telling them how good they are and how much he appreciates them and all the stuff. He never treats the living so nicely, only the dead. But he interrogates the dead and they tell him everything he wants to know. And this has been things from like learning information about where people are hiding to learning the tactics of how. So like that trophy rack of his, it's not just his favorite kills. Queek brings people with him that have the most useful tactical information. So if he's fighting against greenskins, he'll have an orc skull up there or a goblin skull that is telling him like, oh, they're going to do this. Oh, they're going to do this. Watch out for this. And it's true.
Yeah, he's funny, isn't he? I love this entire storyline because there are multiple ways it can be interpreted. One, he's mad. And madness in Warhammer can manifest in lots of ways. It can manifest because of the winds of magic that have somehow granted him, with the enormous amount of warpstone that he has been surrounded with his entire life, insights. And those insights come from the things that he has pretty much nailed into his trophy rack. Because whenever he kills someone important, he slaps their heads, their hands, whatever else, up onto his trophy rack. And he's mad. He's in some respects almost a latent wizard. And he is tapping into information that he couldn't otherwise get. And he is rationalizing it by the voices just don't stop. But that is not the only interpretation that involves magic. You could flip it on its head a little bit and say that actually he's a latent necromancer and there's a lot of Dar laced through him, which almost certainly is the case anyway. Dar is the black magic of Warhammer, where all of the winds gather together and turn into venom from Spider-Man and crawls all over stuff and does terrible, powerful, magical shit, including necromancy. Necromancy is also very closely associated with Shyish, which in Warhammer is the wind of death. And the purple wind of death pretty much follows this Skaven around for multiple reasons. The most obvious ones being he surrounds himself with dead things on his trophy rack, and he's also responsible for killing pretty much anything that comes anywhere near his big magical sword, because he's that big, he's that strong, and he's that powerful. So Shyish definitely is a core component of what sits around him. He could be a latent necromancer. It's not so much that he's sitting there going, I'm crafting spells and I'm speaking to them. He's literally hearing the whispers of Shyish, the spirits that gather around the things that have died about him. He's not so much insane as that he has very... I would be wrong to say limited Skaven mind. He's actually somewhat of a tactical genius. But is that purely because he's being advised by tactical geniuses? That's entirely up to you to decide. But it could be, effectively, he's talking to spirits. So madness, spirits. Could it be anything else? Oh, hell yeah. So many different things it could be because of the amount of warpstone that this rat has almost certainly been exposed to throughout his life. And who knows what Nodwell was doing to him. Because Nodwell is one of the richest Skaven that exist. And he had a favorite pet. And we know that Skaven aren't exactly adverse to doing things to their favorite pets to make them more capable. Not too capable, because you don't want them rising against you, but definitely more capable. So things might have been done to him. What we can say for certain, and the only thing that we can say with any amount of accuracy is that from whatever source it might be, Queek Headtaker, this great, extraordinarily powerful warlord to be. He starts off as a simple chieftain, but eventually becomes a warlord. Gets access to information that he does not know. And that can come from magic. It can come from spirits. It can come from him just latently picking it up from the surrounding area, in that he just puts his hand out, touches a wall, and understands the dwarves that constructed this area, because he's weird, man, and the Skaven did something to him. And one of the dwarf heads says, oh yeah, this is dwarf shit. Dwarf things happened here. And he goes, oh yeah, that's how I know that. As his mind rationalizes knowing things that he can't know. All you need to worry about really is he an entertaining read as he sits there chatting away to the, quite bluntly, reacting oddly heads around them, because they work for him. They often bicker. I mean, they always bicker. But they are helping him. And they are his enemies. So whatever source you want to take and whatever whatever route that you would rather take, just be aware that he is getting access to information that is accurate, that he shouldn't know, and the individuals who are providing it wouldn't, under any circumstance, provide half of the shit that they do.
Oh, yeah, no.
And that is cool. Queek is cool. Whatever's been done to him, or whatever he is, or his insanity, whatever it is really kind of cool. And I love the character and everything that part represents.
Yeah. So I want to give two little notable things here, which is that, so for one, the extent to which this works is so intense and bizarre that whenever Queek sets up a warren, so whenever he sets up like a little hole that he's living in, wherever he happens to be, one of his favorite party tricks is that he'll usually kill a bunch of people when he shows up somewhere, usually whoever owns said hole, along with anyone else that gets in his way. And he'll decapitate them, and he'll put their heads on spikes outside of his hole. And most of their Skaven think that he's doing it as an intimidation tactic. But no, they're watching for him. So when Queek comes home, he goes up to the skulls and says, oh, did anybody come by and touch my stuff? And they will tell him the truth. Because, so they'll tell him like, oh yeah, this Clan Eshin assassin came by and left like a bomb behind for you. And people go, okay, and he'll deal with it. But like, it's not only are they telling him all this accurate information, but they're also seemingly compelled to tell him whatever he wants to know without any resistance whatsoever.
Yep.
And it's really weird. Two things I actually want to share with this that are really funny is, one, I'll share my personal my personal headcanon, which is not confirmed by anything. And the second is I'll tell you the actual answer from David Geimer, which always makes me laugh. So I'll start with Geimer because I had a lovely chat with him about Headtaker, and this delves very hard into why Lorebeards does what Lorebeards does. Because sometimes when you get the official answer, you go,
"Oh no, okay,
so-
fair enough, sure."
Yeah, so I had a chat with David, and when we were talking about just some various things, I said, okay, so I have to know when you were writing the Headtaker novel, where a lot of this information takes place, and this is also post end times where some other stuff happens that we'll talk about later, where it is literally the core focus of, like, not the core focus, but a very important aspect of the story is this ability of Queek's. And I asked David, so what is it? Like, how does the magic or the ability, or how does he know all of this? Like, how do the heads talk to him? And the official response I got from Guyver was, oh, it doesn't. He's just crazy. And it was like, I don't think that makes sense.
Yeah, sadly, it doesn't. But that's okay, because he can be just crazy, and he can be picking it up. But then we need a different answer for how he's getting hold of this information, because some of the information he gets is wholly accurate. He is not just crazy, but that doesn't mean he's not just crazy. But as we've probably discussed on more than one occasion in previous episodes, I'm all for Roland Barthes' death of the author. In that, once we've got the text, it doesn't actually matter what the author thinks, because the text speaks for itself. The author's intention is gone, and anything that we get about the author's intention is nothing more than what the author tried to say. But that doesn't mean that the words that were put on the page match what the author tried to say. And in this case, one could argue that it kind of doesn't. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't use it for your own version of Queek. I think Queek is almost certainly touched. He is very unstable. For all of his genius and his certainty, and often his surprisingly good Reichspiel, he is not normal Skaven. And yeah, crazy seems fine, but it does feel like it can only be one part of a bigger answer.
Yeah, so keep that in mind as I tell you all the things I'm about to tell you as we go throughout the stream. But my personal headcanon, which you don't have to run with, it's not hard supported by anything, it's just my personal theory, is that Queek is so beloved by the Great Horned Rat for all of the... Oh, you're right? Oh, there was a...
Just sneezed. You didn't need to hear that, so I
it looked very intense.
Muted. Oh, it was.
My personal headcanon is that Queek, and you'll kind of see little aspects of this throughout the story, is so deeply favored, or at least has been favored in his past by the Great Horned Rat, that he is latently blessed. But not like a Gracer where he's a full-on sorcerer and has horns and everything. But in my opinion, I think he has gotten a unique blessing from the Great Horned Rat where he inherits the memories and knowledge from those that he kills. Because one of the interesting things about Queek is that Queek never talks to skull or heads of people he hasn't personally killed.
Yeah, and as head theories go, this one feels decent. It's one of the reasons that I didn't go with the blessed route in my earlier go with your own roots work, because I kind of already knew what his head theory was. It's almost like we might have discussed this before in the past.
Possibly.
Possibly. And it's a good one, because the idea that he carries some form of blessing isn't crazy. But you could just as easily go with something's been done to him, which means that he absorbs the Heish. So that's the white wind of magic, the intellect, the knowledge. He absorbs the Heish of those he kills, meaning that he is absolutely batshit mental. He's crazy, and probably absorbing these voices into him has caused him to be, if anything, even more crazy. And you could as easily go with a divine reason for why that's the case as you could go for a more, it was done to him by one of the various other clans at Nodwell's order. It's entirely up to you for your own version. There is not an answer here other than what we have from the author, which is he's batshit crazy. And I think batshit crazy does align with both of those options as well. In that, yes, he is totally crazy.
He is completely mad.
Because he has insights that don't make sense to his brain, and his brain has tried to make sense of it and failed. He probably doesn't need to talk to skulls and the things that he's killed. He probably has access to the information through a different route, but it's what he does because he's actually mad, and that's cool.
Yeah. So back to him being raised. Nodwell notices this ability pretty early, but encourages it because he probably figures out that there's more to it, or like Eddie suggested, may have just done it to him.
May have just done it to him. He's an experiment.
Yeah. And Queek rises through the ranks in Nodwell's little personal favor very, very quick, because Nodwell keeps basically providing him with teachers that are the best teachers of Clan Moors, and Queek keeps killing them. Because whenever Squeak does sparring matches, he always kills whoever he's sparring against.
Yeah.
He does not understand the meaning of restraint, and to be frank, Nodwell spoils him. Really spoils him. So Queek becomes very heavily he has that spoiled brat type of personality where he believes that everything is owed to him, and if someone doesn't give him what he wants, to be frank, he freaks the fuck out. He crashes out and he gets exceedingly violent. And Queek's violence, even by Skaven standards, is terrifying. Queek is very fast. Queek is very literally described in a lot of the novels when you're seeing him from other characters' perspectives. He is so fucking quick that from a dwarf, which dwarfs are very, very skilled warriors.
So fucking Queek.
So fucking Queek. Yeah, he's so fucking... God damn it. That he, to a Dawi, a proud Longbeard who has been fighting for many, many years and all this other stuff, he moves so quick that his movement is not perceptible. Like, it's not even that it's a blur. They just can't follow it. Other Skaven who have this hyper metabolism and are able to stop praising him. No, we are not rewarding bad behavior in this house. But Queek is able to move at such an alarming speed that even when you're dealing with other races and species that are normally very fast, are able to perceive very quick movement, he is freakishly fast. He's and I will say his tabletop profile does not reflect this, but in the novels, he is very much boosted to being like as quick as like Skaven assassins.
Yeah, I mean the Skaven assassins. They say, for those of you who don't know your tabletop very well, we just need to know numbers 1 to 10. That's it. 1 is shit. 3 is standard human average. 5 is standard human peak, and 10 is fucking awesome. And when it comes to initiative, how quickly you move, Skaven sets at 4. They're faster than humans. And typically your highest Skaven will be about a 6, plus 2 on that. Queek is 7, so he's fast. Where if you get someone like Deathmaster Schnitt, he's 10. There you go, that's your initiatives. But the way he's described drops him at an easy initiative 9. His stats don't quite match it. It is worth noting, though, that his weapon skill is higher than any Skaven should be able to achieve because he is that good in close combat. But not just that, he also pretty much hates anyone who dares stand against him. He's got a bunch of special rules, which basically means I'm going to hit you and I'm going to hurt you and you're going to die. He is exceedingly good in close combat. And indeed, his special rule, his very first special rule in Warhammer, was that he challenges everyone he meets. Literally everyone. No matter who they are, you can't control it if you've got him as your general. He will literally go out and go, you next, now you, now you. And his magic items are just finely tuned to just be very, very, very good at hopefully getting the drop at whoever he charges and killing them fast.
Yeah. So as Queek is raised under Nodwell, this is where the story takes a bit of an interesting twist of that Nodwell tries very hard to educate Queek. Like, he tries to teach him the finer nuances of rulership. He attempts to teach him the finer aspects of like strategy and tactics, but he very much grooms Queek to almost in many ways be a replacement. And what it's revealed much later is that what Nodwell wanted to do is he wanted Queek to end up killing one of the other council members of 13 and to take their place on the council so that Clan Wars would have 2 seats.
It's a classic piece of Clan Pestilence tactics. Clan Pestilence almost took over the Council of 13 entirely with multiple members sitting upon it, but then they had their big crash. Go watch our Skrulk stream if you want to have a little bit of a discussion about that one. That was fun. And Clan Moors as a warlord clan, so they don't necessarily have the great specialities that many other great clans have. They are better at fighting than anyone else. They are just, simply put, the kick-ass Skaven. And he was thinking, well, you know, I'll make another kick-ass Skaven like me, because Nodwell is no weakling. He is pretty much the epitome of his clan, and also super, super clever. I'm going to get myself someone who is a worthy addition, not a worthy replacement, because Skaven don't think like that. They're going to live forever, even if they're not. It's in their own little crazy headspaces. He's getting somebody that he thinks he can bring to the table and will go in the same direction as he prefers. And in many respects, the character that Queek has tells you almost as much about Nodwell as it does about Queek, because he made Queek. And he made Queek to be, now get this, given what we've already discussed as his character, to be the best version of a representation of his clan that he can control. And that does not sound like the sort of Skaven that's being built here, but in many respects it absolutely is. He is a perfect example of what Clan Moors represents, and I think would have probably made an extraordinarily good, awful, terrible, but Clan Moors extraordinarily good Council of 13 member.
Yeah. So Queek, after a bunch of training, and when I say a bunch, I mean like it's literally implied to only been maybe a month.
A few months and he's off.
Yeah. Eventually he gets sent off on his first big mission. Like he's given his warpstone armor, so he's all fancy, and his armor is, I will say, nasty. It's one of the coolest armor sets in the setting. Of that, basically his armor was forged with a bunch of very carefully ground up warpstone throughout the forging process, as it was like smelted and all this stuff. And it's very high quality armor made by like the best armor smiths and Skavenblight, who, that may sound like a joke, but they're actually genuinely very skilled and very spooky. Because most Skaven made stuff is terrible, but some Skaven made stuff made at the capital is very, very good. And all of this ground up warpstone that's been embedded all throughout the forging process of this armor basically makes it where it's kind of like a really dirty carpet, where something hits it, it goes poof, and the air gets filled with little tiny shards of warpstone, just dust of warpstone. And it's so potent that when someone like scratches his armor or hits it sufficiently hard and it explodes out in this dust, it burns you. It literally feels like someone has taken acid and throws it in your face. It hurts, it does damage, and like for Queek, it burns Queek a little bit because it's potent enough even Skaven don't like getting hit by it. But Queek kind of just relishes in the pain. Because if something's hit him hard enough that it starts shooting off the warpstone dust, for Queek, that means he is having the time of his life because he loves fighting. He loves it. It is
makes him alive.
Yeah, it's one of the only things that brings Queek genuine joy is when he is fighting something that is a difficult fight, which is very weird for a Skaven. Most Skaven are very inherently arrogant, cowardly creatures that enjoy giving off display of power, but most Skaven, if they're going up against something that is matching them beat for beat or is potentially better than them, they kind of start to freak the fuck out and try to think about, how do I get away from this thing? Where like for Skaven have so many, even in the tabletop, they have so many special rules about being cowards, where if you challenge Skaven, they go, nope, and just send their underlings in front of them. Because Skaven have convinced themselves culturally that the bravest position is clearly at the back, away from the enemy. But Queek don't play that way. Queek is genuinely brave. He's incredibly brave.
No, I'd say brave isn't the right word. He is filled with hate for his enemies. And that's often how he's described on the battle side. He literally has hatred for anyone who crosses him too much. So because he's sitting down there fighting dwarves and greenskins, orcs and goblins, he hates all dwarves, all greenskins, which means he's effectively immune to, in the rule side of things, running away. He just fights and fights and fights and fights. His leadership's all the way up there. But his actual leadership is quite low because his stats, again, don't quite reflect who he is. But loosely speaking, he is exceedingly, let's say, focused individual, and he's a frontline fighter, which is quite unlike most Skaven. He goes out there and he lives for that fight. And that armor, again, for those of you who care about armor stats, as I recall, it's like a ward save, which basically means it's not modified by anything. He can always have a 4+ save. And it also, with the big of does effectively like a rune of spite for the dwarves, it reflects the blows back on those who hit them, which is great.
Yeah,
super.
Yeah, I think it's
sucks.
Like, if an attack hits him, he deals you back like a straight 4 wound that ignores armor or something. But in any event, so Queek gets sent off on his first big mission as a chieftain because nepotism. And also, to be fair,
let's be honest, he probably just murdered.
He probably murdered the chieftain of whatever regiment he was supposed to be in charge of.
Yeah, totally.
So Queek gets sent to the ultimate testing ground, a place that Warlord Nodwell generally refers to as a cradle of violence, a testing ground where only the greatest of Clan Moors rise to the top, which is Carrick 8 Peaks and the lands around it. So Queek goes on this big old journey from Skaven Blight, his home, near Carrick 8 Peaks, but he actually gets sent to the mines surrounding Black Crag for a big strike against the Greenskins that live there. And he gets involved in a big old fight where Queek gets his first big kill away from home. Because once again, he literally murdered all of his instructors, killed tons of Skaven slaves, and Nodwell,
he's a great guy.
there's an entertainment venue in Skaven Blight that's basically like a coliseum, which is used by all the different Skaven clans for different things. So like Clan Mulder uses it for monster fights for clans to prove who's creating the best monsters. But Nodwell used it to let Queek fight whatever he wanted. And Queek actually has a really interesting note about Queek has a lot of fond memories of the first time he got to fight out in the real world, because whenever he fought in the arena, he always fought against slaves. So dwarf slaves, greenskin slaves, human slaves, and they weren't as good as they could have been. And Queek always found that obnoxious. He didn't like that. So out in the real world, he fights against this it's like a big night goblin warren, and they're purging it. And Queek gets into a fight with a really big orc named Morglum Blacktooth. And Morglum has this big old duel with Queek, and Queek kills him. And Queek, if Queek kills someone and he likes the fight, he loves them, he will either take his so Queek's sword, which is often referred to as his sawtooth blade. Queek's sword, you may look at that and go, oh, that's for ripping and like stabbing and stuff. That's not its primary function. Its primary function is that it's mostly designed so that he can very quickly pull someone up by their hair or their head, take that blade, go and saw right through their spine. So that he can rip their head off and immediately start talking to it. Or if he's in a hurry, he gives it to one of his storm vermin and they impale it on a spike and he keeps moving. But when Queek rips off Morglum's head and starts talking to it and complimenting it on how good of a fight it gave him and stroking it very carefully and basically almost treating it like a lover because he's so tender with the skulls or the heads of the people that he appreciates, he starts talking to Morglum, and Morglum goes, "All right, boss, I need to tell you I know about a thing." And Queek's like, "Oh, tell me. And Morglum starts giving Queek directions. So Queek leaves the battle, starts traveling further down into the mines, and he goes down and down and down and down until he reaches one of the deepest levels that particular mine goes to. Like we're talking like a 9th or a 10th deep. And when Queek's down there, he finds this big old pile of garbage, essentially, like thrown away stuff and greenskin shit and all this other nasty stuff. And just as he arrives, he sees this random other Skaven pulling out of this pile this big, beautiful maul, this big old pick, a war pick. And Queek sees it and goes, mine, and jumps on this Skaven and kills him. And Queek takes it, and it turns out this is not just any random pick. This is one of the nastiest, most terrifying Skaven-made weapons from the ancient original war for Carrick Eight Peaks, which is known as Dwarf Gouger. Because the Skaven actually wrote its name on it in Queekish runes. And Dwarf Gouger is fucking spooky. This is a weapon that was very heavily enchanted to basically the spike on it. Not only does this thing hit really hard, but the spike on it is so deeply enchanted with essentially runes of piercing that it's designed to punch through dwarven rune-infused grumroll like it's paper. Which is bonkers. Like, this thing is a fuck you weapon. And Queek gets it and says, this is mine, and he claims it as war spoils, which causes a bit of a thing because technically he was not the lead of the expedition. There was someone above him who sees Dwarf Gouger and goes, mine, and Queek goes, ha, and picks him through the eye and kills him. And everyone else goes, yep, nope, that is Queek's. He can keep that. That seems fair. And Queek goes home. And Queek has suddenly ascended in position because he killed everyone else who was above him. And very quickly vaults up to the position of Warlord. And the first big time we get to see Queek as Warlord is when he is sent to Fester Spike or Slagmire. Is it Slagmire or Fester Spike?
First, I thought it was Fester Spike, but
it is Fester Spike. It is.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
suddenly put me on the spot.
Yeah. So Queek gets sent by Nodwell to Fester Spike. And the reason is that Fester Spike is openly rebelling against the Council of 13. There is a clan that has gotten so powerful that they have told the Council of 13 to fuck off. They're not going to listen to them anymore. And the Council of 13 goes, oh, well, we can't put up with that. And they send a big old army with Queek leading them. And this is one of my favorite moments for Queek because it showcases that he is terribly intelligent despite because Queek is mad. That's not debatable. But a lot of Skaven, especially because Skaven have a culture that thrives on talking shit behind people's back. A lot of people think Queek is stupid, that he is a meathead, that all he does is fight face to face and he doesn't care about anything else. And that is not what Queek is. Queek is actually horrifically intelligent. And what he does is when he gets to Slagmire, he finds fundamentally an impregnable fortress. Fester Spike. God damn it. Yeah, Fester Spike.
Fester Spike.
So Fester Spike has been reinforced to withstand an attack from the Council of 13. They know the Council's coming. And they would not have rebelled if they did not have the firepower to back it up. And Fester Spike is led by this really nasty warlord named Icket Slash. And Icket Slash
Isn't it Scratch?
No, it's Icket Slash.
Okay, cool.
Maybe I don't know if they changed his name, but at least in the novel and the later lore, he's Icket Slash. But Icket Slash is very competent, very accomplished warlord who's had the position for several years, which in Skavendom is a very long time. And Queek realizes that a frontal assault is not going to work. And so Icket Slash expects Queek to do what all Skaven do, which is to send forward legions of slaves, followed up by the more elite troops, supported by monsters and war machines and all that other stuff. That is standard Skaven tactics. To try and wear out the enemy's ammunition and exhaust them by using garbage. And then once you run out of garbage, then you send in the big boys. Queek doesn't do that. Instead, Queek has a bunch of slaves and many of his warriors, which was considered a bit of a faux pas, but he threatens them to do it or else he'll kill and eat them. They start digging. And Icket Slash goes, he's going to try and tunnel his way around us. Another classic Skaven tactic. And Queek And Queek's tunnels, because they're dug so fast, they're not able to be dug stealthily. Like, he's driving his troops to literal exhaustion to the point where they're dying. They're digging all these tunnels, and they dig 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, they start digging tunnels from every direction going into Fester Spike. And Icket Slash goes, this Queek, he's very smart. He's going to attack me from every direction all at once because he thinks he has the numbers to attack us from all directions simultaneously. Very clever, but he underestimates just how much I've prepared for this moment. He sets up traps. He spreads out his troops to cover all of these different points, and he's being much sneakier. He's setting up counter tunnels, and he is ready for Queek. And then Queek strikes, and what does Queek do? Instead of attacking from all of these tunnels simultaneously, which is what probably most people would have done, turns out they're all fakes. Well, they're real tunnels that have a bunch of dead Skaven, but when Queek attacks, he uses only one for his entire army. And instead of sending in the slaves first, Queek goes first, followed by his Red Guard, which are his personal Storm Vermin regiment that the entire time have been very well fed, very rested. So not only has he exhausted Icket Slash's forces by them counter digging and counter prepping up, but more importantly, he got Icket Slash to spread himself thin. He spread out all across Fester Spike and all the way around Fester Spike to cover all of these potential tunnel exits. And Queek only uses one tunnel, and that one tunnel was the only one that was dug in secret that shows up in the center of the settlement, because he knows Icket Slash, being a standard warlord, is hiding in the back. He's hiding in the most protected part of the fortress. So when Queek himself pops out, Icket Slash's army is completely disorganized and spread out. And the first thing he does is he jumps out and he immediately challenges Icket Slash to a duel, which is insane behavior for a Skaven. Like, that is incomprehensibly batshit crazy shit for a Skaven to do. And Icket Slash goes, okay, because Queek basically just keeps insulting them. Like, one of the things Queek is really good at is he talks shit really hard to other Skaven to basically call them cowards, to call them out so that they won't refuse his challenge. He keeps needling at them to be like, "Oh, you're a bitch! Like, you're weak. You're a coward." Basically what all your favorite rappers do. I
see him now.
Yeah,
and in his desk.
Yeah. That's Scott Bloodtail's actual job. He beatboxes.
Here comes.
Yeah, Queek fights.
I'm not going to be able to break that from my idea of Queek is now.
So Queek and Icket have this really crazy fight, and Icket, for all of whatever Skaven may say about him, Icket was apparently a difficult fight for Queek, like genuinely a deadly opponent, because Queek kills him. But when Queek kills him, Queek was so deeply inspired and admired Icket for Icket's ability to fight that Queek doesn't decapitate him. It's the only time he doesn't ever do this. He takes Icket Slash's entire body and has his entire body basically like head to tail impaled on his trophy rack. Funny enough, supposedly for weight reasons, he has Icket Slash's arms and legs chopped off so that his body's not like flailing around like a skeleton on a stick. But so when you look at Queek's model, you'll notice there's a Skaven where it's the skull all the way down to the tail and it's just the spine and the rib cage. That's Icket Slash.
Yep.
And he is one of Queek's like most beloved advisors, because he was a genius in life, a genius that was actually able to threaten and scare the Council of 13. And now he's Queek's closest confidant.
Yeah, unless of course he's just mental.
Unless he's just completely insane, but he tells Queek genuinely good information.
All right, let's take a pause there, grab ourselves some super chattiness, because there's been some pretty good ones coming in.
All right, we've got Stephen Lucas, but Yowie Belagar / Skarstek has already been an
And this is
awesome
exactly the comment I meant about some of the good ones.
Yeah, good one. Yeah. Workshop of
Thanks for
Fun.
leaving.
Those crazy high school
girls.
Those crazy Fujoshis. Lidor, who is Queek's Skaven Bruce Willis? I don't know what Bruce Willis would be in this context. So
I'm not quite sure what you're getting at there, Letter. So if you could reconfirm in the comments, I'll see if I spot it.
Like, do you mean like his rival or he's the Sixth Sense? So he's Queek's the I see dead people. I see dead Skaven. Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. Feel like an idiot. Funny.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's good. So good one.
Darius Rose, Queek being born reminds me of when I got my Chewini with me. I love being Lord Nodwell. Thankfully, the cat, her, and Morky get along well. Well, then, thankfully, Queek may remind you of your Chewini, but your Chewini is not a full-blooded Queek, because otherwise that would be a solo pet household. Amon Knight, super fitting for Skaven psychology with Queek's head quirk. Only feeling safe, caring, and appreciative after they've ruined and undone someone / something.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Queek has a very interesting psychology when it comes to how he deals with like other cultures, but we'll get into that in a little while. The Zuro Daimu theory. Queek is a latent 40k style psyker, given how weird magic stuff he could do without using any language of magic. Skaven psychic awakening. That could genuinely just be the case. That he could basically be psychic.
Something like that absolutely does make sense. The only thing that doesn't make sense for that is that if, let's say, we have psychers in the Warhammer world, because that doesn't seem like it'd be an unlikely affair, given the nature of the entirety of the universe, there would probably be tons of them. And the rational explanation for why there isn't is because the Warhammer world is different, and it stops the standard bleeding out from the warp that can be then manipulated by psychers. So it would suggest that even if he probably wouldn't have that much power or be that useful anyway. So he might just be an exceedingly powerful psyker who has just got that
very limited scope
because of his extraordinarily psychic capability. You could argue that.
Darius, I hear voices in my head. They talk to me. They understand. Queek Orton. Amon Knight, referring to my previous super chat, I don't think it's any wind spell, etc. He's just a personification of what the Skaven want: own and rule the ruins. Yeah, that could be an argument. Yeah. Darius, never assume crazy means stupid. Yeah, that happens a lot to Skaven. And to be fair, that is something Queek genuinely plays into. He knows other Skaven underestimate him, and he leans into it. That's actually probably one of the best parts of his novel, is there is a genuine mask off moment where Queek reveals how politically savvy he is because of the education he's gotten from Nodwell. A lot of Skaven think he's not, because he doesn't play by the rules of their politics, which makes them not like him, and they think he doesn't understand it. He understands it.
I think if you want to try and contextualize this and understand why people don't think he's that bright, think of it this way. Imagine a WWE wrestler. And yes, I'm going there. Darius is on screen. It seems right. A WWE wrestler who is really big and is exceedingly good at what he does. He's been champion multiple times. No one would expect him to be clever because they presume that he's probably taking drugs. That he has probably gone into this profession because he couldn't do anything else. But then he comes out and he stands before a council group, and everybody thinks, well, who is this guy? He's just a stupid entertainer, or if we use our Skaven equivalent, he's just a warlord who murders everything. He's just a really big, thick Skaven that gets his way because he's so powerful. And then you find out that he's actually quite erudite, that he has been taught for months. He has been taught for months about politics, and that is, in Skaven time, a lifetime.
Yeah, basically has a doctorate.
And you find out that he has been not just to an Ivy League university, but he also dropped by Oxbridge and studied there for 4 years as well. And whilst he really likes being in the ring, that's his happy place. Out of the ring, it turns out he's really quite good at that too.
Yeah. Ro, thank you very much. Take this shiny bribe gift. Yes. Now update fix your Spotify catalog to advance quick. Yeah, I have some time today. I'll be working on that.
Yay!
Ricky Chapman, Nodwell probably had whoever Queek's father was killed, or Queek's father was snatched to breed bigger storm vermin. Funny enough, it's very possible they just don't know.
So I think there is something here, Ricky, that is worth just loosely taking a small diversion on, and that is Skaven understand breeding. They just do. Yeah. It's easy to pretend that they don't, because you just think of them as this great amorphous mass, and breeding rights are given over, kids are had, loads of pups pop out. Who knows who the fathers are? That no. There are multiple Skaven who are working hard on genetic programs, who are breeding the biggest, breeding the best. So the likelihood that this particular one is random is not actually that low, but it's low. It's not that low because Skaven, as a lot, are a mess, and everything's mixed up, and everything's a bit broken, and things are just happening. But equally, when it's something that clearly had big eyes beadily glaring at it, this seems very likely that they would have known who the sire was. And if it created a litter as potentially useful as this one, they would have hunted it down. And very likely Clan Moulder of that father strapped up somewhere, and probably the mother as well, yoinked out so that they can use them for their own breeding programs. Because not all of the Skaven understand this, but some of them do, particularly Clan Moulder. So you might find that there is a poor captured slave Skaven who's sitting in chains, who is literally only there for one reason only, and that's his seed. And they'll keep him alive until eventually he dies 2 or 3 years later. And they'll be using his kids and those kids and those kids to breed. They are, after all, breeders. They are, think of them like animal breeders that we have in the real world. Some of the Skaven are as not just as aware of that, they're more aware of what's going on than your average breeder. They are very savvy when it comes to this. So something like this is not as unlikely as it might first appear.
Yeah, and there you could even have a whole thing that it could very well be possible that after Queek, that there was suddenly a noticeable upgrade in the quality of storm vermin in Clan Moors, because Nodwell genuinely invested in having Queek's parents functionally cloned.
Okay, and this is where you go, how much of it was a myth?
Yeah.
And how much of it was just building up the story of Queek, when in truth, the entire litter was taken by Nodwell to use in his breeding programs. Now that seems like the intelligent rat that we know that Nodwell is. And we know that he would tell stories, he would lie, he would do whatever it needs to be done to promote his own clan, to promote ultimately him. And this would be a far better, a more likely outcome. You want to build up the myth of your right claw, your right-hand man, however you want to describe it. You want to build that myth. You want everyone to be terrified of him. You want him to be everything they're scared of so that you can work behind the scenes. So it makes sense that you would tell this tale that he ate all of them, while in reality, it was probably a bit different.
Arendale, haha, managed to catch my boy's stream. Yes. Hope you guys have been doing well and having happy holidays. I'd say we're doing quite well.
Yeah, brilliantly. I mean, I've turned 50, which is, of course, rubbish. Thank you again one more time for all of your lovely birthday wishes. Just to say it one more time, I'm 50. How the hell could that be the case? But beyond that, and the extensive amount of getting back together with lots of people I haven't seen in a long time, yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant.
Chrism, no questions. Just enjoying the new shows and hope you guys are having a good holiday. We're very pleased to hear that.
And for those of you who've come along later, right after this stream, we'll be going to Lorebeards Book Club. And Lorebeards Book Club today is discussing the very first Gotrek and Felix novel, Troll Slayer. Now, you might go, oh, that sounds good, but I've not read that one. Don't worry, that's what they're there for. They're not going to be necessarily taking apart all the stories in classic book club fashion, but they are going to be discussing the lore that you find in there, what it means and the implications of it. And there is a lot in those initial short stories that are inside the Trollslayer novel. So if you're interested in your Warhammer lore, the next stream that we're doing right after this one is 100% for you. Vera and Lindsay are going to go mad. In fact, at the end of the stream, it wouldn't surprise me if I see Lindsay's head pop up because she's going to use this computer to stream from.
Yeah, and we'll raid right into it, so you won't have to go anywhere.
Well, just keep that one so you don't lose. I just want to say, bring up this one and say, oh, mate, I turned 50 on New Year's Day. Not looking forward to that. Dude, you're a youngster. I mean, what's your problem? I turned 50 like a week ago now.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you've got all the time in the world. You're a baby. It's nothing to not look forward to. I'm having the time of my life, and I hope you will as well, Jess Hunt. Pardon me for interrupting.
Brandon Harold, Queek, my most beloved of all rats. Can't catch the stream, but pumped to listen to later. Justice for Ska. I do love how many people love Ska. Super Orlock, woke up late. Happy birthday, Andy.
Thank you very much. Appreciated.
Yeah. All right. So getting back to actually, this is a good moment to discuss Ska for a moment.
Should we do a quick rerun on World Anvil just to make sure?
Yes, actually, that's a great idea. So thank you again to World Anvil for being kind enough to sponsor this stream. Nightbot is dropping this, but you'll also find it in the pinned, or not the pinned, but the top comment in the top of the description, at the very top of the YouTube description. If you check out that link, you can actually pick up a World Anvil subscription by using code Lorebeards to save yourself some money and help support what we do here. And make World Anvil. We would really, really appreciate if you would at least consider clicking the link and checking it out. Just so World Anvil goes, oh yeah, these guys are a good partner. People are actually using it. We will use these gentlemen again.
That'd be lovely. And again, for those of you who don't know, it's a world building piece of software. So if you've ever considered writing a book, it's the perfect place to go. If you've ever considered running your own roleplay game, it's the perfect place to go. If you've ever considered just creating your own bit of the Warhammer world, perhaps you want to build your own little city, your own little lizardman temple, whatever it might be, it is an enormous piece of software that does all of that easily for you. And I say that not as someone who's been asked to say it because we've got a sponsor. I say that as someone who actually uses it. I have their top tier subscription. I pay. It's awesome. You should go use it because I think it's great.
Yeah, maybe if you're a super big fan of Lorebeards and you've been watching all of these streams, maybe you want to use it to make to put all the Lorebeard streams where we create different things, like the time we created a god or the time we created an Everchosen and all that, and put it all in together.
You know what? I don't know the answer to this.
Zero Daimu. I don't know. It doesn't in the thing we have, it doesn't say it has to be a new account.
Yeah.
So if you try, let us know if it works.
Yeah, we could always ping them over an email and double check as well.
Yeah, we will look into that. I will send good old Dave a message about it.
Thank you very much.
Already had that. Oh, I just saw this. I wanted to grab it real fast. Where is awesomeness? How do Skaven relax? I like to imagine a rat puffing on a warpstone laced cigar, which probably explodes in very cartoon fashion. Yes. So for many Skaven, a lot of them, it's kind of a combination of what humans do and what rats do. So like self-grooming or just grooming in general is very, very popular among Skaven as a relaxing thing. So like if you're a particularly wealthy Skaven, so we actually see this with Queek a few times, wealthy Skaven will have like blind or deaf or mute or all three Skaven slaves whose literal job is they just like pick over the fur and they chew out mats or like blood clots and like other things that are in their fur, like they clean all their fur up. Or many of them some will use drugs. There's a lot of drugs in Skavendom. Warpstone is usually not used as a relaxant. It's usually used as a like a whoo, like it gets you up and going for Skaven. But they do have a considerable amount of drugs. They have a lot of pleasure foods for those that are richer. Obviously, like breeding is something many of them look forward to. Some of them prefer to take naps. Some of them prefer to just be fawned over. Some of them enjoy. They have lots of different hobbies. Like it'll depend on the individual Skaven as well. But they take a lot of their like soothing behaviors from like if you ever look up like people's pet rats and like what rats do to like how you could tell rats enjoying themselves, what they do when they're just chilling and relaxing. Skaven are very similar.
Yes, to all of that. We've had a couple of scenes in Lawhammer, which might amuse you also, particularly when one character passed by a bunch of them playing cards, and it was it was a thing. I'm going to bring up this question because I just want to answer it very quickly. Does World Anvil help with writing my own Warhammer Fantasy roleplay story? Yes, it does. It's not just that it'll give you a place where you can store all of the information from your story, your characters. It also provides prompts. So it makes you think about the things that you're putting into it. So you'll get prompts for what your characters might be thinking, how they might be thinking, approaching others, and how the story might work. It gives you places to put your maps. It gives you ways to put tags on it to make sure that everything that you're writing makes sense. So the answer is, loosely speaking, yes, it does. There we go.
All right, so back to the story of Queek. We are now post the destruction of Fester Spike. Something that's actually really interesting is that so the Fester Spike incident was very legendary in the Under Empire for Queek's rise. It was his first major accomplishment as warlord, and there was a lot of rumors that spread out because of it. One of the most famous ones is that Queek is an interesting rat because many Skaven are motivated by fear, and Queek, frankly, isn't. He has a level of arrogance that kind of pads him out against a lot of the typical cowardliness that you see from Skaven. There are times where he does genuinely get scared, but they're few. And one of the big powers that Greyseers, for instance, wield is the wrath of the Great Horned Rat. You know, they speak as his prophets, and they threaten anyone with his disfavor if they like don't do what they say or yada yada yada. At the Battle of Fester Spike, one of the rumors that came out, also Vault Boy, just want to say thanks. You're the GOAT. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Vault Boy.
One of the notable myths that came out. So it's genuinely never stated whether or not this actually happened or if this is just a rumor. Is that Queek is such a devil that during the Battle of Fester Spike, once he had killed Icket Slash, his army then was in the center of the city and basically spread outwards to kill the rest of the rebels and chase them down and sack the city. And Queek, at the center of the city, was said to be this big statue of the Great Horned Rat, this big thing built in its honor. And Queek supposedly was so hopped up on victory and was so out of his mind with adrenaline from his duel with Icket that he went on one of his big tangents, which he does do this, where he starts shouting to no one in particular that he is the greatest, he's the best, he can kill anyone, he's better than Nodwell, he's better than anyone on the council. And there are times where Queek has kind of genuinely sort of said things that would be considered heresy by most Skaven, where he has said something along the lines of like, if even the Great Horned Rat is too scared to come and face him. Which is very convenient because the Great Horned Rat can't just manifest in reality to like flick him. But you could also argue that the Great Horned Rat is amused by Queek's antics. Because Skaven have supposedly been smited just out of the blue by saying shit about the Great Horned Rat. That has apparently happened. But Queek apparently cried out about how he's better than their god, climbed up the statue and decapitated it. Which in Skavendom would be considered a huge no-no. Like, that is you are in like, if the Gracers find out about that, they are going to try and kill you because they will be so upset. But whether or not that actually happened, who can say? In any event, rumors start abounding about the Mad Queek. And this is when Nodwell makes a big choice, which is that he decides to put Queek into the ultimate test blender, which is Carrick 8 Peaks itself, and he appoints Queek as the warlord of Carrick 8 Peaks. There are two big developments here. The first is that it's roughly around this time, either right before Fester Spike or right after Fester Spike, that Queek is assigned his personal bodyguard, which is Ska Bloodtail. Now, Ska, we're not going to talk too much about, but Ska is titanic. He's like a 7 foot, 8 foot tall rat. Like, he's huge. He is so much bigger than any other Skaven that has ever existed in any story I've ever read. And he's way bigger than Queek. Like, he's easily a full head taller than Queek. And Ska, to his credit, has a very funny personality, which is why so many people love him. Ska is noted for being one of the most loyal Skaven there is. And it's not because he's genuinely loyal per se. It's that he's so terrified of Queek because he's been around Queek for so long. And
months.
Yeah. Ska, to his credit,
it's like 3 whole weeks.
Yeah. Ska is super funny because he's really, really big, and he actually is an excellent bodyguard for Queek and an excellent chieftain. And Ska is actually a very, very intelligent because he's very good with logistics, and he's very good with numbers and data, because Queek actually hates being a warlord most of the time. Queek doesn't like doing marching orders. He doesn't like taking care of troops or counting troops or organizing formations. Queek thinks all that shit's boring, and he usually delegates it. And Ska, unfortunately, is always the guy that gets delegated to. So whenever Queek doesn't want to deal with something, Ska has to deal with it. And there's a lot of shit that Queek doesn't want to deal with. So Ska kind of actually runs a lot of like the day-to-day stuff over in Carrick 8 Peaks nowadays. But Ska is very funny because he's witnessed a lot of Queek's powers and abilities, like the whole like talking to heads thing and all this thing. And Ska actually came to a very hysterical and amusing conclusion, which is that Ska is convinced that Queek can read minds. And that anytime he thinks, so whenever Ska thinks anything like most Skaven do about backstabbing Queek or betraying him or trying to assassinate him or anything, he is convinced that whenever he has one of those thoughts, that Queek can hear him thinking it. So he immediately is like, no, I'm loyal. So like he's so hardcore self-policing himself that he's kind of by accident the most loyal Skaven there is in existence, even though it is like flat out revealed from Queek's perspective, Queek cannot read the minds of the living, and Queek genuinely has no idea what Ska is thinking. But Ska is very smart to be thinking that, because there are many times where Queek has a very flip-flop. He has a very manic personality. So Queek will go from extremes very quickly, where he'll go from like extreme like deeper thoughtfulness to extreme agitation to extreme anger to being mollified. Like he flip-flops really hard. And anytime Queek has had someone to work for him, he usually ends up killing them because he'll go through one of his mood swings and they don't react fast enough. So they don't realize that his mood has suddenly changed, and they say something, and Queek misinterprets it because he's fucking crazy, and he kills them because they have angered him, or he thinks they're a traitor or whatever. Ska has stayed alive for years at Queek's side because he just always assumes he's in trouble and just always throws himself onto the ground and exposes his throat, and he's like, I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. And Queek's always like, oh, I forgive you, Ska. I forgive. Ska would never betray me. I forgive you, Ska. Which is very funny. They have a genuinely, if you ever read the novel, their relationship is hysterical. They have an excellent like henchman villain relationship. But anyway, so Queek is sent by Nodwell to be in charge of Carrick 8 Peaks. The second thing that's important around this time is that for the Skaven, times in Carrick 8 Peaks have not been good in this era. because this is a good couple of decades after Belagar Ironhammer has returned and set up his little and taken the top levels of the hold. And most notably, the Skaven have been getting their shit rocked by Skarsnik. Absolutely obliterated by Skarsnik. Skarsnik at this point has literally killed 3 warlords already, easily. Like he drowned the Undercity, like he redirected an underground river so that the city got washed away in a big flood, and he killed like millions of Skaven very casually. There was also the time that a warlord tried to make a treaty with him, and he sent them a bunch of drugged up squigs that when they woke up had super hangovers and killed and ate everyone. He has sent Skarsnik's done countless little things because Clan Moors tries to kill him, that always fails, and then they try to placate him and make a treaty with him, and he always betrays them in very inventive ways that catch them off guard. So pretty much every warlord for like the last 10 years has either been killed by Belagar or has been killed by Skarsnik. And Clan Moors has been losing a lot of face, and they've been losing a lot of ground. And Nodwell now sends this perfectly bred, perfectly trained, really weird warlord into the mix as kind of the ultimate wild card, because that's what Queek is. He is a wild card. There's a quote from Nodwell where Nodwell reveals, this is at the very end of the Queek novel, where Nodwell is having a conversation with the Grey Seer that Queek got nearly killed. And this Grey Seer is really upset about it. And Nodwell basically reveals that what Queek has become to him. Originally, he wanted Queek to be like his son that would be his perfect right hand, but he realized that Queek wasn't suited for that because of his mind. There was something fundamentally wrong with Queek that made him dangerous because of the voices and everything, because Queek can't be controlled. Not really. So, but Nodwell realized that is also an asset, because he basically uses the illusion he gives is he basically asks the Grey Seer, have you ever seen the dwarfs go fishing in this particular lake? And he goes, and he reveals that the way the dwarfs would do it is they would take these very carefully built explosive devices and release them into the water, which then explode and kill, and they see what comes up, and then they take it. And so that's how he thinks of Queek. Queek is a bomb that he sends into difficult situations to explode the situation and see what comes to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And to his credit, it works really well. And Queek shows up in Carrick 8 Peaks, and the entire situation flips. Because Queek doesn't fight like all the other Skaven, where they try these really complicated schemes and these really complex plans, with Skarsnik is always 2 steps ahead of them. And they keep using typical tactics against Belagar's dwarves. And Belagar, while he is a dwarf, Belagar is willing to use some very unusual tactics in order to achieve victory. Which has put the Skaven in really, really bad place, because Belagar is desperate. And Queek shows up and just says, nah, fuck that. And just unleashes a wave of terror that causes the greenskins to have to fall back, causes the dwarfs to have to fall back, and the Skaven just go into overdrive because Queek is unrelentingly aggressive.
And I'd just like to interrupt with and he seems to have lost his voice. Oh no, I'm just sticking to my word. This is Sotek's penance from when he was Soteking away on the previous Lorebeards. And again, if you didn't catch the intro at the beginning, I am quite happy to sit back for most of this one and just go wild, Ryan. You have some fun to do.
Don't worry, he'll jump in when he needs to. And so this leads to a number of big incidents. One is that Skarsnik, very amusingly, is kept very on brand as a character, where Queek, Queek is a very hateful little guy, but there is no one on the face of the entire planet he hates more than Skarsnik. He hates. He calls him Imp Thing, which is very funny. And it's because Skarsnik is a clever little bastard. and he refuses to meet Queek head on because he knows that's a stupid idea, and he's very good.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, it is genuinely. And Scarsnake is very, very good at manipulating Queek's aggression against him. And Scarsnake also rather humorously figures out, he doesn't directly understand it, but he kind of figures out Queek's ability really fast, where Scarsnake manages to deduce that Queek is able to get information from people that die. And so Scarsnake quite literally starts feeding false information to people he intentionally gets killed by Queek so that Queek is working on wrong info, which is hilarious.
Or he's just insane.
Or he's just insane. Yeah. He's just crazy. Yeah. So you may be wondering, is there any particular thing that cemented Queek as the horrible doom that he is for the dwarfs and the greenskins early on? And yes, there is one particular story that's actually really well hidden, to the point that when I made my big Bellegarde video, I actually missed it the first time.
Oh, well done.
Which pisses me off because it was hidden on a very unusual page. So turns out, as if you may know if you've watched my Bellegarde movie, that Bellegarde's brother died fighting the Skaven in Carrick 8 Peaks. Because during the end times, there's a scene where Queek basically brings Bellegarde's corpse out, or Bellegarde's brother's corpse out on his trophy rack to distract Bellegarde, because he's a bastard. And everyone would go, oh, when did that happen? When did that happen? And there's actually an answer to this, which is Drumgar Engrund, which is Bellegarde's brother, was fighting with Bellegarde in Carrick 8 Peaks around, this would have been around like 2518, 25-ish, or 2519, somewhere in that ballpark. So Queek's like 2 or 3 years old. And Drumgar, like Bellegarde, is old. Like, he's like well over a century. And very experienced warrior. He's a full-on dwarf lord, dwarf thane, whatever you want to call it. And something very weird happens, which is that we don't know exactly what the situation is, but basically what's revealed is that Queek uses his position and authority as warlord. He has to deal with a lot of people. And we'll get into why Queek hates 2 particular groups, but there's a group that he desperately hates, which are the Skaven of Clan Eshin. Queek hates them. He hates Clan Eshin. He wants nothing to do with them. He despises them for reasons we'll get into in a little bit. But Queek breaks his usual rules about working alongside them. And he spends a bunch of warp tokens and his authority to hire Deathmaster Snitch. And Deathmaster Snitch's job is that he and Queek work together to lure Drumgar into a trap, where Drumgar, with his little patrol or whatever it is that he was doing, gets isolated from the rest of the dwarfs. His bodyguard is massacred, but Queek says, don't touch him, he's mine. And Queek, in some little shadowy part of Carrick 8 Peaks, duels Drumgar Engrund and kills him.
Yep.
And he decapitates him, takes his head, and Bellegarde receives word that his brother's body has been found desecrated, partially eaten, and without its head, which is a horrible blow to the dwarves.
Yeah, dwarves don't like that shit. Yeah, not at all. Poor Bellegarde. And just as another small mention, Bellegarde's also in the first Troll Slayer book.
He is.
Isn't that lovely? Why would I bring that up?
Bellegarde.
Yeah, oh boy, is he. And why would we bring that up? Because obviously we are having Lorebeards Book Club in just 45 minutes starting on this very channel. So make sure that you are ready and prepared for that, because it's going to be Lore Drop Central about Gotrek and Felix.
Yeah. And for anyone that's like, Sotek, why was it so hard to find that? Because it's part of Queek's story, so you'd think it would have been on any of the Queek pages of any of the army books that he shows up. Nope. It's on the Deathmaster Snitch page, which I didn't think to look at when I was making the Bellegarde video, because I didn't realize Deathmaster Snitch had done that. It's literally just a single sentence in one of the army books that talks about that Deathmaster Stitch was involved in the disappearance and decapitation of Drumgar. And
huge event, though.
Yes, massive event. So Queek is now involved in this whole thing, and several other, and this is where Queek's story becomes a little messy because we stop getting as many details for a little bit. And keep in mind, all of this happens within 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So everything I've talked about is within the 4-year timeline, and we're not done yet. Queek also, at some point, actually in this little period, gets sent away from Carrigate Peaks after fighting there for a while, because he gets sent, of all places, to Averland, where Queek, for some reason, is called upon, because this guy must have been enough of a threat that Queek had to be called in to go deal with him, to deal with a very mysterious man by the name of Baron Albrecht.
Whoever he is.
There's nothing written about him.
Kraus? Is his last name Kraus, as I recall? I'm never going to look it up.
It might be. I only remember him as
Baron Kraus, I think it is, because I remember having to add it onto one of the maps once and finding out where the blinking province of Kraus was, and I was like, crap.
Yeah, there is nothing recorded about this incident. Literally the only thing we know about Baron Albrecht Kraus is that he's from Averland. He is a baron, and he was causing enough problems for the Skaven that they called fucking Queek up to go deal with him.
Yeah, this is one of the great unspoken stories of the south of the Empire, which is not a great surprise because the south of the Empire is forgotten by almost every single writer. Anyway, it's a place where things sort of happen.
I want to add one last little thing before Andy adds his stuff here, because I think this will add to Andy's little storytelling. Because I want y'all to think about this, right? So everyone that Queek ever kills, he takes their head. Everyone except Albrecht. Albrecht was such a big deal for Queek that Queek wanted his body. He wanted his head, but he couldn't get it for some reason. The only thing he managed to take of Albrecht was his hands. He right around here-ish, he somehow only managed to chop off both of Albrecht's hands, and he has them tied around the front of his trophy rack, just holding on to one of the little poles sticking out of it. But he is the only kill that we know of that Queek cared enough about that he always, which I'll talk more about this in a little bit, but Queek is very, very picky about who goes on his trophy rack. Not just anybody gets up there. Only the best get up there. And Albrecht is never not on there.
Yeah, so this is one of those weird ones. And it's a weird one because it's almost the sort of story you would expect them to tell, because it involves the Empire. And we all know how much of a hard-on Black Library had for the Empire. And there's an untold story here. We have a story of, right, let's be as clean as we can about this. One of the most important Skaven in the world's Edge Mountains, a warlord of Clan Moors, and the arguably most important warlord clan. It's a little bit like randomly sending, let's see if we can pick out some sort of modern day equivalent. It's a little bit like, imagine if, for example, we're dealing with the United States and they send their Secretary of War to deal with something in Bulgaria. And he arrives personally. And he just turns up and he goes, I'm dealing with this today. And the epic conflict that he has is so epic that he talks about it forever from that point onwards. Now, for those of you who know any politics in America, this might not surprise you that he talk about it forever, given who I picked. But regardless, it's not the sort of place they would go because Skaven don't have any interest in the lowlands of the Empire. The cities, perhaps. The mountains, definitely, but not the lowlands. Why was this important? Why did they send the most important person they could possibly send to deal with this? Why did he agree to go? Why did he hike it out regardless of what else he was doing? Now, we all know the real answer. The real answer is because those hands are on his banner pole and were mentioned in multiple army lists.
Yeah.
But as we've discussed more than one time on Lorebeards, all of this stuff can easily make sense. So we have an epic tale here. This isn't a small tale. This isn't one of those ones where we go, ho ho, he passed through the Empire, they had a fight and moved out. No, a Skaven invasion force led by one of the most powerful Skaven in the world rushed into Averland, waged a campaign that was so important to Queek that he forever holds those palms, never claiming the head on his back banner. He's always thinking about it. The one that got away, always thinking about it. Why? Why? This is a big story. And it's one that if you're out there thinking, oh, I'd like to tell a story, it's one you could tell. It's a really fun one. If you're playing roleplay game, there's something here. And it's not something small. This is the one where you have dispensation from Games Workshop to tell something stupidly epic, which is beyond what anyone would expect. And it completely matches the lore, because the lore as it currently stands hasn't answered, nor is it ever likely to answer this question. And the question is, what is so important that Clan Mors, the greatest warlord clan that the Skaven pretty much have, send their most important warlord into the heart of the south of the Empire to duel against a lesser baron? Because it's just a baron. Barons are nothing. There's hundreds of them down there. To duel a lesser baron and bring him to heel, and Queek never forgets it because it was so fundamental to his life. What the fuck happened? This is awesome. An unspoken tale. But that's really all I'm contributing to this episode today. The spoken tales are all left to the bad boy over there who didn't do his video.
Yeah. So we'll kind of let y'all sit on that, because there's a lot of theories, one of which I've been working on for said video that one day somehow will come out. It'll be in my obituary probably, but
Bloody hell.
It is by far, of everything we're going to discuss today, it is the biggest mystery of Queek, is what happened with Albrecht. And that's awesome. I fucking love that. And once again, I'll remind for anyone that's role playing that if you do the enemy within as your intro storyline for your PCs, if it takes them a year, you'll be in like 2513. So you've got 4 years till Queek is born to potentially meet this Baron Albrecht, and maybe have a whole thing about that, which could be a super fun campaign.
Or just if you want to set it up, bring out that Baron and show why he's important later. And make him someone. He faces off against Queek almost certainly because he's up in the banner, which means he can go toe to toe with Queek.
Yeah, he must have been a fucking badass.
Yeah. Okay, a proper badass, because the combination of items that Queek has makes him exceedingly good at taking on challenges and taking on characters. He's just really good at it. And he's almost certainly better than your best Empire swordsman. So who is this guy? This is something that's quite cool to investigate.
Yeah. So from there, I
just want to bring one here from Vault Boy. He's not. He's genuinely, legitimately not, because we know all of the court around Marius really well, and then Marius dies. This guy is someone who is hidden. So if you're going for a story, don't go for the obvious one. Oh, I'll make him someone important. He isn't someone important.
Yeah.
He is someone that is important to the Skaven.
Yeah, this would have had to have happened.
Why?
Yeah, this had to have happened post third battle of Blackfire Pass, because Queek was there. So Marius Lightdorf's already dead. So yeah, it's a whole mess.
It is.
All right. So
we should probably super chat for a couple of minutes.
And then I'm gonna hit the gas to get as much in as I can for the rest of this. Oh gosh, where was I? I was
Christ, just thinking how much there is in the end times.
Yeah. Darius. So he's Dolph Lundgren with schizophrenia. Got it. I don't know who that is, but sure.
Dolph Lundgren, he's a big actor in many a movie.
Okay. Gordon Shima, Skaven's opinion on Bath, the cat Tomb King god. They'd probably be terrified of it. Skaven are very stereotypically afraid of large cats, large snakes, large things that eat rats.
cucumbers dropped
Yeah,
by their
cucumber.
feet.
Yeah. Just put a cucumber behind him. Like,
Square the mask of fear out of here.
Darius Rose or Kane, who has a doctorate in microeconomics. Yeah. Maybe he's actually a Cratch's kid. That would actually be very funny if he was the kid of a different Council of 13 member. Amon Knight, Queek X. How many? Queek X Ska Yowie End Times linked epic win. I'm not writing it unless someone pays me a lot of money and they also know they're gonna have to wait for eternity. And I'm gonna be like, I never thought I'd be writing this, but here we go. Darius Rose, the summoning of Scarbrand by Thankful and Queek. We're not quite there yet, but we're close. Reminds me of the time when both of my dogs crapped on my grandma's carpet and she got pissed at them. Plus, Queek and Thankful bickering reminds me of both dogs. You must have very interesting dogs.
Very expressive dogs.
Yeah. Azure Shadow just took some heads myself. Won my first 2 Age of Sigmar Spirit games today. Congrats. I hope you had fun.
Good job.
Go Bloodcraft. I actually played my very first game of 40k 10th edition last night with Tyranids, and I won, and it was super fun.
I've been playing, of all things, Trench Crusade of late, and that has been an interesting experience. I'm really digging their game.
Elijah Snow, wait a minute. What was the name of the dude from the Imperial Zoo book narrative who went home to kill Skaven? Because they set that up. Oh, I don't know. I haven't read it in too long, so I don't remember. If that was actually Albert Krauss, that would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be.
That would actually be a very cool insert.
I'm sure we could make that a thing.
Yeah. All right. So everyone put on your seatbelts because we're about to speed things up. Because we got a lot to get through still. So after the Baron Albrecht incident, the next thing, as I was able to sort out the timeline, the next big thing that happens is Queek's incident. Oh, actually, no, we need to talk about Queek's background with Grey Seers and Clan Eshin. So Queek hates a lot of things. He genuinely does. But when it comes to situations of among Skavendom, Queek is very interesting, where a many Skaven accept many aspects about life. And one of those is that Skavendom is inherently a very political culture. It's very high politics, a lot of scheming, backstabbing, cloak and dagger shit. And Clan Eshin is, of course, the assassin clan. And the Grey Seers are the ultimate political figures and prophets of the Great Horned Rat within Skavendom. And Queek hates both of those groups. Now, with Clan Eshin, it's actually really easy and vaguely, fairly well explained within the story of that Queek hates Clan Eshin for 2 main reasons. The first is that there's assassins. They're sneak thieves. They rely on being shadowy and deceptive and sneaking up and killing people quietly. And Queek personally hates that shit. Queek thinks violence should be loud. It should be bombastic, and you should be being like, I'm the greatest, I'm the best. And assassins
tunneling 1,000 tunnels, for example, and bursting through the biggest one and killing everyone personally. It's his style.
Yeah. And so they are literally the opposite end of that spectrum, and they represent a form of violence that Queek disapproves of, which is actually very interesting, because one of the things you learn about Queek throughout like reading his stories and stuff is that Queek hates employing assassins. He very rarely wants to use them because he basically views them as kill stealers. And he goes out.
It's like failure because you couldn't just sort it yourself.
Yeah, and he genuinely kind of goes far out of his way to make their lives miserable when they have to work for him. Because often he gets told he has to use them and he sort of deals with it. But the other big thing is that Queek actually has a lot of trauma around Clan Eshin because they have tried to kill him so many times. So many times. Queek, and it's noted, Nodwell has personally hired a ridiculous amount of Skaven assassins to kill Queek. Like a staggering amount of assassins to kill him. Because Nodwell does it for 2 big reasons, which one is to keep Queek on his toes and to make sure that he is always as sharp of a weapon as he possibly can be. And the second one, which Nodwell doesn't like to admit as much, is that he has to keep Queek busy. Because if he doesn't, Queek could become a threat.
Yeah. It's just a classic piece of manipulation. He's keeping Queek exactly where he needs him to be.
Yeah, and so Queek genuinely hates them because, and Queek actually talks about this a bit in his novel, is that they have tried to kill him a hilarious amount of times. And in the novel, they tried to kill him several times. And Queek, and this is kind of one of the reasons in the books they sort of upgraded him in the lore. His feats are notably higher than they are in the tabletop, is that he has to be fast enough and skilled enough that he can reliably kill like big boy assassins.
And bluntly, he couldn't. A proper assassin from Clan Eshin is a very, very scary thing. And on the tabletop, also a very scary thing. A little assassin, yeah, they're okay. But when we're coming up to the Death Masters...
Initiative 10 on which strike first is very spooky.
Particularly when you're dealing with a warpstone blade that's doing D3 wounds as well. If you just look at the base stats of it all, a single weeping blade hit from an assassin can kill you. Just one hit, just getting one tiny blow in, and they have failed every single time. So you could just place it down to bad luck. You could place it down to his innate magic. You could place it down to the whispering heads. You could place it down to his rules are just wrong. It doesn't really matter. He moves at the speed of plot anyway, and the plot says he kicks assassin ass.
Yeah, there actually is a funny note about Clan Eshin has had genuine problems with the heads, because when they try and sneak up on Queek, the heads tell him, because they also see things they shouldn't be able to see, like, because Clan Eshin, they rely on like magic a lot of the times to hide them, and the heads see through it. The heads see them and go, "Hey, Queek, there's a guy over there," and Queek goes, "Rah!" And Queek is notably hard to deal with when he knows you're already there. So anyway, so there's Clan Eshin and then the Grey Seers. And Queek hates the Grey Seers because Queek, in his personal belief, which he's not wrong, Queek thinks they're a bunch of liars and that they don't actually wield the authority of the Great Horned Rat as much as they say they do. And that they're all scheming idiots that only exist to get in his way. And
it's not unfair.
Yeah, and it's genuinely a pretty fair call out of the Grey Seers.
Yeah, it is.
And so he infuriates them because he doesn't acknowledge their authority. And there have been so many times in the books and in the further background where a Grey Seer tries to threaten Queek to get in line by either trying to cast a spell or by being like, "The Horned Rat will strike you down for heresy." And Queek says, "I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm calling out to the Great Horned Rat. God, if I'm wrong, if he's right and I'm wrong, kill me. Kill me now." And nothing happens. And Queek goes, "I guess you're full of shit." And the Grey Seer's like, "Well, fuck." He kind of called me on that one. And there have been times like Queek is terrifying because his arrogance causes him to kind of skip over logical things where he should be scared. Like if a Grey Seer is building up a spell to cast warp lightning at you, any reasonable person would look at that and go, "Yeah, nah, fam. I'm not tanking one of those." Queek literally will look the wizard in the face and say, "You better hope that spell kills me, because if it doesn't, I'm going to eat you alive the next heartbeat afterwards." And the wizard goes, "Maybe I won't." Maybe not, because this guy is fucking insane. So anyway, so that's why he hates those groups. So after the Baron Albrecht incident is what we call the Thanquol incident. So this is one of the funniest stories. It's actually covered pretty well in the Skaven trilogy. It's the main plot of the third book, which is Thanquol's Doom. And to cut a long story short, there's this dwarf hold that a minor-ish dwarf hold that is causing a lot of problems. There's a big prophecy about them.
Is it a mine?
Yeah, it's a mine. They call this a mine.
Minor-ish. Well, you said it.
I didn't. I didn't say that. Anyway, so there's a whole prophecy around it, and there's all this other horrible, crazy stuff. And it basically builds up to there is a huge war against these dwarfs, and some of the big individuals that lead it are Thanquol is there kind of representing the Grey Seers, and you have Ikit Claw there, and this is where Ikit Claw actually builds the first Doom Sphere, even though Thanquol sabotages it so it doesn't go off, because Thanquol is fucking hilarious, and he would rather make sure all of them lose rather than someone beat him. His rivalry with Ikit Claw is actually fantastic. I highly recommend that book. It's very funny. But anyway, there is a Clan Moors warlord in the story who Thanquol does a very good job manipulating. which causes a lot of problems. And so finally, Nodwell has enough, and he sends Queek. And Queek shows up, and the first thing he does is immediately decapitates the other warlord so that warlord tells him everything. And he walks up to Thankful, and Thankful tries to do all of his usual shit of like, oh, like, I should manipulate you. I'm Thankful. I'm great, mighty Thankful, and I've got Bone Ripper here and everything. And this is at the point where Bone Ripper's like a weird undead automaton thing. And Queek goes, don't care. And he grabs Thankful, grabs him and says, and there's like a big fight with the dwarves going on. And he goes, you are going to summon a vermin lord like you were supposed to, and you've been promising to do for weeks at this point, or I'm going to kill you. And Thankful goes, doesn't really work that way. And Queek goes, okay, then I'm going to kill you. And they have this whole thing, and Queek forces Thankful to basically perform a demon summoning ritual on the spur of the moment using an artifact. Now, the problem is, A, it's Thankful. B, the artifact is vaguely implied to not be what Thankful thinks it is. And so when Thankful performs this big ritual to summon a vermin lord, he fucks it up because he's Thankful. And instead of summoning a vermin lord, he summons Scarbrand, the basically living incarnate of the manifestation of hate itself. And Scarbrand pops into existence with a horde of demons, and the dwarves and the Skaven go, oh no! And this is the only time we ever get to see Queek do something, the smart thing, which is Queek looks at Scarbrand and goes, fuck that, and he runs away. Which is really interesting, because a lot of the characters around Scarbrand actually get overwhelmed by Scarbrand's aura of hatred and start fighting one another and like tearing at each other and stuff. Queek remains in control and falls back.
This is I've long thought this was obviously super hilarious and funny, but I do think, even though we are late in the day and there's still a freaking shed load to go through, it is worth just taking a pause here to note that a greater demon of Khorne effectively is stupendously powerful. And I don't just mean that's why he ran away. I mean, it influences everything around it when they manifest. And everyone turns into a frothing, rage-filled idiot. But not Queek. Queek, in some respects, did the opposite of what you'd expect an ultimate killer to do, which is to charge. That's what it appears Queek's almost raison d'etre is, but he doesn't. Queek says, fuck this for a game of soldiers. This is not for me. I'm out. I'm done, and I'm out, and retreat. And there is not, I think, a very good and justifiable reason for why he did that, which means we have another interesting note about Queek, and that is he's either smarter, his psychology's broken him back to front, so thus when everyone else goes run, he goes stay. When everyone else says stay, he goes run. But there's something going on with Queek. At its base, you'd expect it to simply be one of his things said, you're going to die.
Honestly, I can imagine all the heads just started screaming. And he's like,
quite.
Oh, shit!
There is something here that, again, could do with a bit more discussion or depth if we were wanting to build a story for Queek. But this is another one of those moments where you go, Queek is a bit different. Queek has got something else going on.
Yeah. All right. So from there, Queek goes back to Carragate Peaks, where we get the actual novel. So this is when like the Voices short story takes place and the full novel. Some things that are revealed about Queek during this part are actually really fun. One of them is that Queek's personal burrow in Carragate Peak. So he's got this hole that he lives in at the center of the settlement, the City of Pillars, which is the undercity beneath Carragate Peaks. And when Queek is down there, we finally get revealed what it's like, which is that it's full of skulls. It's just full of a bunch of heads, most of which at this point are just bone, but some of which still have like flesh and some other stuff on them. And all of them are from Queek's personal kills. And he basically keeps
dwelling in his madness.
Yeah, so he keeps basically like this whole thing, and Queek has this whole thing in his head about where he talks to all of them, and they talk when he lets them, or sometimes they'll say things he doesn't want to hear and he tells them to shut up or whatever. but Queek switches out the heads on his trophy rack relevant to what he's about to deal with. So Queek basically has like a council of elders almost that he calls upon to deal with relevant situations. So like if he knows he's going to be dealing with dwarfs, he'll make sure there's a dwarf head. If he knows he's dealing with like some other species, he'll have that head. Like he brings head relevant to certain situations and certain species. Now, there are two notable skulls of interest that are revealed in the Voices short story, which the biggest one is that Queek has one, but one is still notable. He has an elf skull.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a story that's revealed. We get just a hint of a story, which is Queek thinking about when he fought this elf. And it's revealed that the elf had specifically tracked him all the way to Carragate Peaks to kill him. Queek fights this elf, and Queek thought it was one of the most glorious battles he ever got to enjoy because the elf was so skilled and so fast. But Queek ultimately triumphs and kills this elf that tried to track him down and kill him. We have no idea what kind of elf it is. Like, we don't know if it's a wood elf, a high elf, a dark elf. It's just the story just recounts it as an elf. And there's a story there, but that's all Queek gives us, which is fun. It's enough to work with, but not enough to give all the answers, which is just enjoyable.
Yep.
And there's also, from once again, a duel that is bonkers, a fucking manticore skull. Which, like, damn, Queek, that's pretty impressive. That is genuinely very impressive.
Manticores and Warhammer are scary.
Yeah. So anyway, we get the novel. To cut a long story short, it basically follows Queek gets sent orders from the Council of 13 to leave Carragate Peaks and go down to Karak Azul because Thoric Ironbrow and Karak Azul has been sending out runic weapons and forged weapons to the rest of the Kaiser's Corps, which is causing problems because the dwarfs are starting to perform much better. And Queek is sent there to stop them. Queek is hilarious. It's a great story. It's wonderful. I highly recommend it. To boil it down, Queek basically sabotages the entire plan because the ultimate plan was, we're going to trick the dwarfs and kill them with a very clever series of events. And Queek goes, okay, but do I get to duel the king? And they go, well, no, the plan is the king will die, but you don't get to duel him. Queek goes, fuck this plan. Fuck you. I'm not doing it. And Queek fucks up the entire thing. He ruins the entire plan, all because he was throwing a hissy fit that he wouldn't get to duel Cazador Dragonslayer. Even though the book, the more you get to know Cazador, the more you actually get the feeling that if Queek fought him, Cazador would obliterate him.
Yeah, you do get that feeling.
Because Cazador is a beast.
I mean, Queek has got a lot of plot armor, but it'd be an interesting write-up for that fight.
Yeah, and I will say, one of the things I love about this book is Queek is a badass, but he does have limits. Like Thoric Ironbrow completely annihilates him with some very clever tactics. This is actually where Queek has dealt the biggest personal emotional blow he ever suffers in his life, which is that because of Thoric Ironbrow's deception, where he uses runes of illusion to make a bunch of organ guns genuinely invisible. So like light bends around them so you can't see them. Queek leads from the front. So Queek is on the front lines, which was not what he was supposed to do, and he leads the charge with his elite troops, which he was not supposed to do. And Thoric goes, haha, and a bunch of organ guns suddenly are right in his face and go kaboom. And Queek's army is obliterated. All the elites instantly wiped out. And Queek's favorite head, one of his favorite heads, the first head he ever claimed, Morglum Blacktooth, is destroyed and lost forever. And Queek is emotionally he suffers so much emotional turmoil from losing Morglum that it's like when you're reading it, it's genuinely very sad.
He's lost his best friend, man. He was his best friend.
Yeah, so Morglum is lost. Queek spends the rest of the novel being an absolute hilarious thing. Like the Skaven set up a big secret attack because the dwarves are about to go attack Blackcrag, and Queek writes in Queekish a message saying, hey, by the way, we're going to attack you guys when you're leaving at this specific spot at this specific time. So please don't leave. And he goes to where the dwarf army, this is one of my favorite scenes. So the dwarf army is mustered. They're about to march out the gates one of the dwarves looks to the left and he sees Queek fucking Headtaker standing on the side of the army, and Queek sees him looking at him and does this. And leaves a message and then runs away. And the dwarf's like, that cannot be what that just was. And the dwarfs go over and look at it, and so they translate that Queek literally like left a hand like pinned to hold up the message, which is some guy's hand. And it's such a goofy moment, and the dwarfs are like, oh god damn it. So they have to call off the attack on Black Crag and deal with Queek instead. But the human sees him first, but then the dwarves see him. But so anyway, so long story short, Queek ends up saving Karak Azul because he's Queek. But he actually goes down into Black Crag, and we get one of the coolest moments in the book, which is Queek duels Gorfang Rotgut. And if you've seen the Black Crag stream, you know that Gorfang Rotgut is one of the coolest fucking orc characters in the setting and an absolute badass. Yeah. And to put it very bluntly, Queek loses.
Yeah.
He duels Morglum, and like it has all this build up. They're talking shit to each other. Gorfang for his point doesn't even wield his actual red fang. He's just using some random statue that he ripped off its plinth and is using as a big battering club because he's that big. And Queek does this whole crazy acrobatic act and impales Dwarf Gouger into Gorfang's crotch, spike first. But there's a problem, which is Gorfang's armor is so thick that even though Dwarf Gouger goes all the way to the hilt, it still doesn't get all the way through his armor because he's wearing that much armor. It's so
he's
thick.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, it's so thick, Queek literally can't get to his flesh. And Gorfang goes, oh, that's cute. And he backhands Queek so hard that Queek goes flying over the rest of his troops and like slams into a wall. Queek has to ends up running away. Not like fleeing, but
strategic withdrawal attack.
Yeah, he chases someone else that he sees off to the distance that he hates. Like he really hates at this point in the story. So he just gives up on Gorfang and he goes fight somebody else. So Gorfang just beats him. But because of what Queek did, it leads to a whole thing where Karak Azul ends up attacking Black Crag anyway and laying siege to it, which sets up for the end times, and also gets Karak Azul distracted where they're too busy fueling their own war effort. So he technically, and Queek actually explains this, which is really fun, that one of the characters accuses Queek of failing in his mission, and Queek goes, I didn't fail. The council instructed me to stop the supply of weapons to the rest of the dwarf holds. Karak Azul is now involved in a war and will need the weapons for themselves. Therefore, I have successfully accomplished my mission. Which is very clever of him. Genuinely. Now, he didn't do it the way he was supposed to do it, but he did it the way he wanted to.
Let's stop right there and grab through a bunch of super chats very quickly because we've got a lot to cover in about 5 minutes. It's going to be salient points or a part 2.
Let's see. Boom. Final casual. The Untold Story, Baron Albrecht, the Badass Skaven Slayer would be a really fun what if episode. Yes, it would.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one because you're going to need to build a pretty freaking cool story for that.
Godzilla and Chalkox took 3 Weeping Blades to the chest and didn't give a fuck. Chalkox is built different. That is true. Chalkox built different. Amon Knight, consider Queek X Thankful X Scarbrain Yowie. I will not. Thank you, though.
Did you have to?
Wildlife Pro. Queek's naturally full of hate, so he's used to it. He's like,
the arrival of a greater demon of hate. Yeah, I get it.
Ben Voldolfi, if Warhammer's taught me anything, is that the more neurodivergent a character is, the more chaos resistant they are. I mean, I'm not neurotypical. I'm immune.
I'm gonna have no problems with it at all. Apparently, I'd like to disagree with that, but I'm finding it hard.
You're not wrong. Maybe autism is a superpower. What movie was that? I forget. I think that was one of the old Predator movies that said that. That was very funny.
Oh man.
All right. So anyway, that gets us through the Headtaker novel. This then leads to a short story called the Karag Durak Grudge, which basically is a story about.
Which I've not read. So this is new for me. This is the first time we're actually hitting something. I'm like, oh, I've not read this one.
Yeah.
Now I'm listening.
Yeah, so this is a short story that's very fun that takes place after, which basically shows Queek up in the World's Edge Mountains, nearer to like Karak Kadrin and Karasakarak, where the story is that basically there's a mine that he was sent to attack. And he did, but there was a dwarf Thane in there who actually beats him in a duel. And Queek is pissed about it. Queek does manage to like chop off or bite off part of his hand during the fight, but Queek has to run away. The dwarfs win. And so this dwarf has become a legend among the Dawi, and Queek is still fuming about it. And basically what the book is it's revealed that there's this whole complex plot where this dwarf ends up dedicating himself to killing Queek to the point that he actually hires Skaven to help him do it.
Oh no.
It's genuinely, though, a really fun story. It's very, very fun. And Queek nearly dies several times because it's a very fun plot. And he finally gets to duel this dwarf again. And you find out very quickly why this dwarf is such a fucking badass. He is genuinely a badass. And for a dwarf, he is willing to fight dirty, which kind of catches Queek off guard several times. But Queek eventually gets him and kills him. Though if it hadn't been for Scott Bloodtail doing some Scott Bloodtail stuff, this dwarf would have killed Queek. But it's a super fun story. I highly recommend it. It's got a lot of really fun moments. But anyway, so that happens, and that carries us up to the start of the end times.
I think possibly we should stop. Given the hour, we can't cover all the end times because quite a lot happens in it, and it'll be a very curtailed version. And the people want more. We
could just do a part 2.
Teased this for like 19 years. It seems absolutely unfair.
I feel like that number goes up every time someone says it.
What, 22 years? I mean, it doesn't. It's exactly how long it was. 24 years ago this started. And I think it's only right that we have ourselves a part 2 at some point. So I'm going to do something that will be entirely unexpected, and I'm going to provide a loose summary. This is what happens when you don't do what you say you'll do.
I will also note, I want everyone to keep in mind, this entire stream got us to Queek turning 4 years old.
4. So, yeah. So, everybody out there, take a moment to consider this. If you promise something to someone, you should do it, because if not, you'll be left having to effectively fuck you, Elliewood. That's sadly not an exaggeration.
And he was in his 40s when Sotek promised.
Oh,
that's such a
genuinely
mean
funny
way to put it.
Oh, that was so good. Okay, give me a moment just to take that on board. Done. So, if you promise something, do it, because if not, you might end up having to talk for 3 hours largely by yourself while a smug Scottish person sits in the background getting older and grayer and older as he watches you slowly but surely spill all the information that you said you'd spill in a video and miss out half the fun little bits that you were desperately keen to mention, but because you're just doing it all by yourself, you don't have a moment to reflect and go, oh shit, I missed that bit. That's how these things work. But it does mean, though, that as we hit our 3rd hour, we are going to be heading into a part 2. A part 2 for Queek Headtaker, because, as you may have noted, in 4 years, he's done a lot. And I do mean a lot. So much, in fact, that this entire 4-year section, if you give it the space that it needs to breathe around some of the stories, it doesn't quite add up. It can. You can make it force fit in, but you have to do things like, that time you went to Averland, that took 2 weeks. 2 weeks for the whole thing? Yeah. Why? Because he's got a lot to do at Carragate Peaks. There's like tons to do there.
But like just to get there from Carrick to Everland, it takes a while.
All the way up the World's Edge Mountains and all the way back again. He has a lot to do, and a lot of the time would be spent in travel because he doesn't start in any of these places with most of his stories. 4 years is arguably not enough time for him to have cemented his extraordinary reputation. But personally, I prefer to say that it is. Because in many respects, it makes Queek all the more special. There's not a moment in Queek's existence where he's not doing something epic. There's not a month that passes by where he's not dueling someone. How do we know this? Look at that pile of skulls. Take a moment to think about it. And take a moment to think of time. Take a moment to think about it again. He's probably gone off into the Darklands and killed a bunch of greenskins over there, killed a manticore, come back in again. He's probably been killing down in the warrens beneath Skaven, dwarves, orcs and goblins by the bucket load to get that many skulls in that one place that he was in. There is so much that's happened there, but it's not impossible. What it is busy. Queek doesn't stop. He just doesn't. He's constantly on the go. His emotions are high, and he hates losing at anything. And an important character trait for him is that he frequently loses. He is a Skaven, but he always backs out before he dies, because it seems there's a lot more going on with Queek than just an insane Skaven warlord. This insane Skaven warlord knows how to retreat when everyone would expect him to be in the very heart of the army, only attacking. He has gone into multiple duels that he has lost and will come back another day. He doesn't stick on. He doesn't fall subject to hatred with the thing that he's facing against and thus keep on fighting like a slayer until either he's dead or his opponent's dead. He's much more canny. And that's, I think, the core trait that we should take from most of all of this. He's, of course, a setup from almost day one to be the perfect Clan Mors fighter. Turns out he's a perfect Clan Mors fighter who's insane. Now, whether that's by Nodwell's design or whether that happened by mistake because of what was done to him is uncertain. Because I really like to have done a big summary, I'm not going to. I'm just going to sum it up with this. We have ourselves Skaven, who was bred for this, is a perfect example of what Nodwell was looking for and was clearly turned into something else. He is not just simply mad. He is insane, but he is not just simply mad. There is more to him than that alone. And it has given him the presence of mind to get through situations that the insane folk would never have survived. He is something special. How special? Well, we'll find out as we, here comes Lindsay, as we dive into part 2.
They're coming for us. They're kicking us out.
Oh, you've got your, oh, nice. Oh, how festive. So Lindsay is here for a reason because she is about to take over this chair for the Godric and Felix Troll Slayer Book Club episode, which is on the Lorebeards channel, the channel you're watching right now in about 3 minutes. On that, should I just take over?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to wrap us up and then peace
you
out.
do a wrap up, and then I can you can just take the whole screen if you want.
Before you go, George R.R. Sotek, go fuck yourself. The wins of Queek are coming. Do you think Corn likes Queek? I think he likes what Queek does, but Corn doesn't like anyone except like Volkia, and that's it.
Yeah, totally. Corn doesn't like anything. Get out of it.
All right. With that, thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and I've got everything set up so that
you do everything set up. So I'll leave out so she can get in and joining the other stream. So see you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye. So thank you all so much for watching. We really appreciate the support. Once again, thank you for supporting Andy in his 50th birthday. We love him around here. Like, I couldn't do any of this, and I certainly would not have been able to evolve this into what it's become without him. Just last quick thing. I expect to see all of your memes about how long Queek has taken in the Lorebeards fan art chat. By the end of the day, better be on my desk. I need all of your high quality memes about me and Andy talking about how long Queek has taken. Also on Twitter, feel free to at me and at the Lorebeards account. Expected by the end of the day. We're gonna head over now to the book club. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see a little thing pop up in the chat here in just a second. That'll be like, click here to go to the stream. Please do that. If you're on Twitch, you don't go anywhere. Twitch, stay right there. So I will be in the chat chatting as well. So I'll see you guys for book club. Take care. Bye-bye. 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 He says.